You know, like Jack's a lovable character and he's a nice guy and he just wants to do a different holiday, so he kidnaps somebody and steals theirs.
Yeah,
you know, that's
good. It's a good story to teach your kids. If you see your neighbor, they have something, got a nice new car, the kid across the street has a new bike, you take it for yourself. You go across you go across the street, you walk up that kid, and you fucking break his kneecaps. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 78 of the Thought Patrol podcast. We have returned yet again. It's me and Shawn, as always. Yeah,
Shawn and I.
Your two best boys are back. Fuck this guy. I love him now. I love him now. All right. We're gonna go ahead and get into this episode. I'm only gonna say it once. I am operating on very little sleep right now. So if there's something that happens throughout the episode where you're like, holy shit, Kyle's being completely retarded, just remember that although normally I am completely retarded, we're like going into realms of retardation that shouldn't even be possible. So just keep that in mind if I say something particularly dumb or phase out almost entirely. So Shawn, I expect him to carry the weight as he always does. But we'll go ahead and get into the episode. Fuck, intros. Shawn, how have you been, my chocolate friend? You're not chocolate, but I'll eat you up like chocolate.
White chocolate. Yay.
I hate white chocolate.
I haven't been able to give enough attention to Darksiders. I did a little bit more Hollow Knight. I'm loving that.
Oh,
I'm
gonna light a fucking candle.
Pardon?
I'm lighting a fucking candle. I'm gonna do that right now. Oh, I don't have a lighter. All right, never mind. I'm just gonna sniff it while they talk.
I've been jamming out on Final Fantasy 14 again.
Fuck yeah!
I found out that when I wasn't playing for a little while, it kicked me out
Of the guild.
So of the guild, it kicked me to the bottom of the rung, and I was guildmaster. So that was fun.
Yeah.
And I've been catching up on the story. I'm like, I don't know, 25% of the way into Heavensward.
How you liking it?
I love it. I liked A Realm Reborn. I thought it told a really solid story. I like the fact that I think if I actually follow through on my goals of getting into game design, I think I can take this idea and improve on it just a bit. Because I feel like some of the other MMOs that I've played, they told a story and there was some interesting stuff, but the mechanics, just playing the game, was the fun part. Going in and killing shit and getting loot and getting stronger and buying things and exploring, that was really the fun part for me. I loved Neverwinter because I loved the D&D world. I like seeing the D&D stuff in it. I like the mechanics for the most part in it. Some of the mechanics for some of the characters or classes were stronger than others, but the mounts looked really nice. I thought graphically it fit. You know, I thought it was really interesting and the level design was interesting, but the story never grabbed me. And I love that world, you know, and the story just didn't hook me as much as I wanted it to. I liked it, but I didn't fall in love with it. And 14 almost makes you feel like you're playing a normal Final Fantasy game. Like they've got an almost tightly woven story. Like the only thing that's limiting it from being that engrossing, enveloping, atmospheric, just completely absorbing game is the fact that your character never says anything and never has an opinion on anything. Like, and I know they do that for the whole, like, inject yourself into the character like Zelda, but I've never, ever liked that. I fucking hate that. It's the only part about Zelda I don't like. It's the only part about these kinds of games that I fucking don't like. And what I saw that gave me a little bit of inspiration was in Fallout. Was it 4?
Mm-hmm. The thing with the baby.
The last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, where your wife dies or your husband dies.
The opposite gender does. Yeah.
Yeah. What I liked about that one is that your questions and your responses had personality. The character already had some personality. They were like 60% done. And you decided the other 40% by your actions. And as the game goes along, the way you talk changes. And you start talking more like a bad guy or more like a good guy. Your tree options will change and things like that depending on where you coast what hole you coast your character into. So it gives you enough of a framework where you can still see yourself in the character if you want to, or build the character into whatever you want to. But at the same time, the character has its own personality. It talks. It has flavor. It reacts to things with more than 4 facial expressions. And I didn't get to play it, but the Knights of the Old Republic game, as I understood it, took that a step further. Like your characters actually had personality and so on. So if I could take some of that and inject it into this, and I mean, you build your character, your looks, your name, everything, and as soon as you start, you're going to start maybe you can pick like certain personality templates where that'll give you a basis to start the character from. And then when you have conversations, have conversation trees and how you talk to people, and then actions you take, whether they lean into the gray or the white or the black, will help kind of dictate the kind of character you grow into. And it might change how people talk to you, but you can still have the same overall gameplay. Like if I played a villainous character and you played a good character in Final Fantasy 14, we would still play through the same story, but the dialogue would be different. And maybe you could write in a few like scene differences and things like that. It would take a bit more work, I'm sure, but I think it could be done. You wouldn't have to change too much other than dialogue options and maybe shoot some scenes differently. Other than that, the game would pretty much play the same. So I think that would make it feel just like a single player game where you can just dive into it even if other people are running around. But then it adds that extra layer of specialness because you can play with your friends and you can see other people running around in this world living their characters' lives, and it kind of makes that really nice. And I love that about it. And I think if they had just gone that extra mile, this would be perfect. I'd really love to see my character not be a fucking puppet. And that's the only part where I don't get it. I don't know why I answered that question. I knew that was going to take forever, but the only part that fucking kills me about it is that throws me out. Everything else sucks me in. That's the only part that kind of boots me out, is the blank slate business. Because none of the characters act like you're a blank slate. They act like you're responding with a certain sentence. They act like you're saying things a certain way or responding a certain way. So really the only thing that doesn't fit in any of what's going on around you is you.
I understand it to a degree, but it also is like, it's something that's always existed in MMOs. It has never been not that case. And I think it's a penalty of again, like you were saying, not that it is like an exception. Like there are, I'm sure in the future we'll see more of it, but there are ways to artificially include kind of like player impact. But I think if you want it to feel good, you would have to spend a lot of time, because if you have someone playing a villainous character, someone playing a good character, you can't have them hitting the same story beats the whole time, because then you don't feel like you have any impact on the story, and you feel like the dialogue doesn't do anything. I mean, you could be like, oh, I made this one person frown because I told them their dick smelled like dirty cheese, but if we're still fighting the same icon or primal at the end of the day, and we're not asking them to join us and take over the world or some shit like that, you don't feel like your dialogue has any impact. But I think that's a casualty of this vast multiplayer experience. I mean, you either have to adhere everyone to the exact same storyline, which is what they do in this game. Everyone goes through the same exact story.
Yeah.
And it would be cool to have your player actually talk and then just make a female voice. And because they have, like, you have 10 voices you can pick from, but they're all just expressions. Like, Oh,
grunts and stuff.
yeah, stuff like that. So I could see at least talking.
I agree with you. But I'm not asking for agency. I'm not asking to change how the game flows. I'm just asking the game to allow my character a personality besides surprise face, angry face, dead
Jesus.
face, I have no soul face.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like they're. It's only in moments that I feel like I'm actually because everything about this game makes me like I'm playing Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, 10. But every character in that is a fully developed, fleshed out character. And in this, everyone it just feels really good except for me. Now, how the characters move and stuff like that's a little archaic. They turn in place sometimes and shit like that throws me out. The movement's not realistic, but it's the fantasy element that glosses all that, mechanic that just that old school kind of stuff over. I'm not asking for the story to change. I'm asking for the world to react that I'm there in a little bit more of a little less of a generic manner. And I think if I could just that when I play this, I feel like if my character spoke, had opinions, thoughts, reacted in a way that I felt was close to the way I want them to react. That's all I'm looking for. If you did a few scenes, like maybe key scenes here and there differently depending on your character's alignment, like if you incorporated an alignment scale, if you did that, I feel like that'd be enough agency to make it feel as good. And you know what I'm talking about when you're playing through Persona, when you're playing through Final Fantasy, when you're playing through Dragon Quest, or any of those games. They have these fully fleshed out stories, fully fleshed out characters, and you feel like you're part of this amazing, fantastic journey, and it's just a lot of fun. And this game has that almost. It's almost there because the only part that's missing is my reactions and my dialogue and my opinions and my character being who I want him to be and going on the adventure I want him to go on. I don't play video games to be the character. I play the video games to live through the character, vicariously. So I want him to be having an adventure, get to go along with. I'm not like people like, for instance, Perry, who will literally in his head create a backstory for his character and his character never talks and he's totally fucking down with that. Like that just works for him somehow. Don't have that kind of imagination. Like I want it to be more of a cinematic experience, and it's not when your character doesn't fucking talk. I long ago decided Link is mute. He does not have the ability to talk. That's the only way that doesn't grate on me in those games.
Right. That
noises.
It's funny.
Can't vocalize words.
It's funny that he's just like a caveman. Ooh, 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 ooh. The one thing that's one thing that kind of annoyed me with Breath of the Wild is they had this. I mean, it wasn't in your face, but there's like a bigger push for like a cinematic kind of feel to it. But they didn't change Link at all. So you have like legitimately ball busting things going on when you think about it. Like you fought a long time ago, and literally all of your friends are now dead and shit. And you unravel this as a person, and then it cuts to Link's face, and he is just dead fish levels of emotion. Even in like every once in a while he'll like grimace or something like that, but like even the one scene where like Zelda's like crying on him and shit like that, he's not doing fucking anything, and it constantly annoyed the shit out of me because
that is annoying.
And it's just because like it's not hard, and I understand you're doing it because it would be controversial to have Link speak because he never has spoken, and they rather I don't know, but I'd rather have Link.
Ocarina and especially Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, really with those two, Ocarina, they gave him facial expression. It was only a handful, but they gave him ones, and they were always appropriate for the moment. And then you have Wind Waker, where he had a ton of facial expressions because he doesn't talk. He communicated through his body posture and his facial expressions, and that was how, and it felt right. And in Twilight Princess, they animated his face. So I don't understand why they didn't do that now. Because in Twilight Princess, I mean, the only thing about Twilight Princess is that story goes in some fucked up directions too, and you really don't see him react. So I can see that there too, actually. But he still had some. If they could do it in Wind Waker, where he never had a dead face, like, and it was hand animated kind of stuff, why can't you do it now? It can't be that difficult to put a look of. I mean, Link can have feelings. He can have a look of concern or a look of love or compassion on his face. It doesn't make sense to not do that. You don't. I mean, they're never going to make him speak, and that's something I'm okay with because he's mute, but he can talk through his face, his body posture, and they did that once, and they did it a little bit with Twilight Princess. So why can't they do it again? Why can't they fully flesh out his visual character? That doesn't make sense.
Game of the year 2017.
Yeah.
Still salty about that. Yeah, I would agree with you. I'm also playing Final Fantasy 14. Oh, you have anything else about your week before we move on?
No. Christmas is like a week away. I've done no Christmas shopping. I haven't been able to get out, and I've got no money, so I'm really upset over that.
Fucking oof.
That's got me bothered.
Yeah. I suck with getting presents for people, especially my parents, because I never know what they might want. So Caitlyn's really good at that shit. So she'll be like, Kyle, I got you. And she'll go get a present. She's like, all right, just pay for half of it. It'll be our present. I'm like, got it. Yeah, I suck at finding presents for people. I don't know. I'm just not very good at it. So that always kind of puts me off for doing Christmas shopping. Although I have done a bit of Christmas shopping. I got Caitlyn something, which I think she'll like. But yeah, I'm liking the Christmas spirit. It's still hot as fuck down here in Florida. Because, hey, not Christmas here. But what you gonna do? Not really much. I'm glad that your week was okay, at least. I'm glad that we actually have a group playing Final Fantasy 14 again. Shit's lit. It's so cool to be doing dailies with like actually a group of people. Really have been having a lot of fun, especially like Nick and Hector. I love having Nick around. Like whenever we do shit. Same thing with Hector. I think that they're I just love playing games with them. So it's nice having everyone back together to play a game. It's just really cool. I've been playing Final Fantasy 14, still grinding my Astrologian, trying to get them geared up before we get Shadowbringers next summer. I want to get at least a healer, a tank, and a DPS leveled to max. Like as high as I could get their gear that's reasonable, where I'm not like doing super end game shit. I don't know what the item level cap is currently. But like I'm trying to get all the gear that you can grind for with dailies and stuff, and then I might move on before I start upgrading the Skaven stuff, because you could upgrade it by doing the extreme trials and savage trials and shit like that. So maybe before I step into that, I'll get 3 characters to that level where everyone's at 390, and then from there I might kind of figure out, because I really love the Astrologian as a class. It's probably it's not even probably. It is my favorite healer I've ever played in an MMO. It is so much fucking fun, and I'm still learning shit about them. I was doing a trial last night. We were streaming, and I learned something about one of the abilities that I never even thought about. Like they have a stacking mechanic where everyone has to get together. So instead of one person getting fucking annihilated, it equals the damage amongst everyone in that attack when it hits. So if you have your whole team of 8 stack, that one person that's getting targeted will not get fucking eviscerated by that attack. So they have a move called Collective Conscious, where it's this big AoE and you put your arms up. It makes you immobile. So I never really I was wondering what the use for it would be, and I watched another Astrologian play. I was watching him play, and he used it for stacking mechanics. So when everyone had to stack, or you had a group where everyone was forced to stack up on each other, you pop that bubble, and it reduces all the damage taken by 10% of everyone in that bubble, on top of granting everyone within the bubble a regen as well that lasts when they leave the bubble too. So it's a super good move to do to just help ease the burden on yourself and the other healer that's with you when you're doing trials. And I never even thought about using it that way. So I'm like, holy shit, that's really cool. So I moved that to another area in my bar. Now, that's not, you don't use it as often if you're just normal level dungeon, doing normal like leveling dungeons or shit like that. But for trials, for raids, where those kind of more in tune mechanics come into play, it's necessary. Also, I fought Suki Yomi or whatever her name is, one of the Stormblood icons that came out of God, all these names in Stormblood, they're fucking so hard to remember. The girl that Gosetsu was basically moving around that had something happen to her. I'm trying not to spoil anything. And she was not a very nice person. I did that fight, and that trial was ball busting the first time because I didn't read too much about it because it was like 4 essays worth of fucking stuff that you have to do. But the whole fight was fantastic. My favorite fight so far, like hands down, has been my favorite fight so far, with the way that the story kind of culminates to this point in the fight, and seeing the past of this girl and how she came to where she is right now in this moment that you're fighting her, and the music and everything together. It's just like this, again, the culmination of the last like 20 hours of gameplay all coming together to this one like crucial moment, and you having 7 other people doing this with you. It's just something about that is it's such an awesome feeling, and doing that fight was amazing. On top of the fact that the fight being super mechanically intensive, or for the most part, it's one of the more mechanically intensive things I've done. So don't at me fucking like, "Ooh, have you tried Savage?" Blah blah blah, like Ramu or whatever. No, I'm not. It's as far as I've gotten. So, it's really cool. I fucking adore this game so much. I recently used a Fantasia potion to remake my character. It was actually me and Handsome Jack, Alex, on stream. We were sitting together like, yo, we're going to remake this character, and we remade her, and I think she looks pretty cool. She's got more of a stern look to her face, so she's more interested. He called my other character Dead Fish, and I'm like, fine, fuck you. I've been wanting to change my character anyway. Well, let's sit here and make a character together, and that's what we did, so it was pretty cool. Besides that, week's been okay. We actually went to go see Ralph Breaks the Internet today. Me, Caitlyn, my family, her friend, and then my older brother. I liked it. I thought it was a fun movie. It wasn't anything really deep, and the more I see from this world or whatever that Disney created, the less I like Ralph as a character. I just think he's stupid and selfish and shit. And although there's some kind of resolution for that throughout the second film, my favorite part was just kind of like the Easter egg thing with how they did Ready Player One, seeing how they portray the internet. And one thing I kind of was worried about was the idea that the movie wouldn't feel like it was in tune with what was trending currently on the internet. But they had some things that were, there were some things that were old as shit, like some of the memes and stuff like that. But they had other things that are actually like quite up to date with what they were referring to. I was really enjoying the whole thing with the kind of GTA / Need for Speed clone that they had in the game or in the movie. It was like called like Savage Race or some shit. I don't know. I remember something stupid. But like seeing the actual players walking around and them being like stiffly animated, it's so real to like playing like around a GTA or playing Fallout or some shit with friends. Like you feel that like this is something that would happen if you were actually playing. And I thought that the way that the environment was designed and they portrayed all the aspects of the internet kind of almost in this like city like area, I thought was really cool. And I just enjoyed looking at the movie for the most part, and that's what made it a lot of fun. I think it did go on a bit long, and I felt like the conflict dragged out a bit long, but again, it's like a family film, so I wasn't really looking for something super fucking deep. And what it did supplement with like the look of everything and the animation, all that, I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it for that. But yeah, I liked it. I thought it was worth going to see it. It wasn't anything. It didn't blow my socks off, but it was definitely something where I was interested to just see more of the film. I like seeing the dark web and all this other shit. I thought it was pretty cool. And everything involving the Disney princesses, I thought was fucking awesome. Like when what's her name? Vanellope, I think that's her name. Vanellope, some shit like that. When she first meets all the Disney princesses. And like you have all of them together, and who is the one that has the fucking Cinderella like breaks the glass slipper to use as a shiv and shit, and you have all the princesses there. I thought it's something cool about that, like having all these characters from your past because I used to binge Disney, although they're all princesses, but just seeing that and then seeing all the stuff for Disney, like in their website, like the Star Wars stuff, I thought it was cool. It definitely kind of gave me like the Ready Player One vibe, except I thought Ready Player One was just overall a better film, and I thought it was paced better. I felt like, again, it was a little long. But again, family film, I wasn't really expecting too much. I thought it was just a fun watch, something to sit down and just ooh and ah at the environmental design and shit like that. So definitely kudos to those people that sat down and had to personify the internet. I think they did a pretty good job. Besides that, my week's been pretty good. Been enjoying a lot of Final Fantasy. Excited to get back to it. Nothing else really going on. I did play Smash. I unlocked all the characters finally in Smash. I don't know if I said that last week. So that's good. I've been playing online a little bit here and there. I know I brought it to work one day to play with some of the community members from the It's Obvious Gaming podcast. If you're new here and you're listening to us and you're looking for other podcasting content, I recommend checking them out. They're pretty cool guys. And it was fun having that. And absolutely, bro. Now, I had to get up every once in a while because I was at work. But when I was playing, man, I was on fire. I was kicking ass, bro. Now, I can't really talk too much shit because it was like 4-player Smash and they had items on and shit. I wanted to do some 1v1s, but we had too many people and I guess it would take too long. But it was fun playing. And the internet so far is not too bad. Like the latency, you get the typical like input delay that comes with just like fighting games like that. But it's not bad at all. I was really having too many lag hiccups and we had 4 people, actually 5 people at max in the party hanging out. So it was working well, and I enjoyed what I played. So that's about it. I'm glad that you can join me, Shawn. Glad everyone tuning in for episode. Yeah. I'm glad all you guys tuning in could join us this week. Right now, we don't really have a main topic, but we're gonna just kind of see what we linger on and might make that the main topic. So we'll go from there. But there's definitely some stuff that had happened over the week, so we have some interesting stuff to talk about. But let's move into housekeeping real quick, and then we'll just power on to our mailbag. We do Twitch streaming. Now, our Twitch streaming schedule is kind of fucked. It's at this moment. So the best way to kind of keep up with the Twitch streaming, I would recommend first you could just follow the page, twitch.tv/ThoughtPatrol. You can follow there. You'll get notified when we go live. That's a good way of sticking up to tune. Also, I let everyone know ahead of time on our social media platforms, Discord, Twitter, Facebook, like, oh, hey, we're going live now. If you guys want to stop by, blah, blah, blah. We'd appreciate to see you guys there. Hang out with us as we play some games. It'd be pretty cool to see just more members from the community, whoever does tune in. Next, we have, again, Discord. All the links for these social media platforms will be down below. Connect with us that way. Discord is my top recommendation for all of these. It's a really awesome service. If you have not heard of it, it's basically a big chat room. You can join a server, multiple areas. You could talk with the other members of the community, hang out, stay up to date with announcements, stuff like that. I think it's the ultimate way of connecting with a community, any community. I love Discord. Also, if we talk about something in this episode that interests you, feel free to leave a comment below. Also, while you're doing that, feel free to subscribe, whether on YouTube if you're viewing us that way, or on the Twitch streaming the podcast streaming platform that you are on, to get us every week at Tuesday at 8 a.m. Subject to change because it's not always that way. Also on Twitter, you can follow us at ThoughtPatrolPD, get announcements that way. Same thing with Facebook. The Thought Patrol podcast, and you can get the reviews that go up occasionally on our sister page, The Streaming Geek. You can see those through Facebook as well. And finally, iTunes reviews. If you guys like us, want to help us out, feel free to leave an iTunes review. Help us get a little bit more traction as a podcast and show up in more people's boxes when they search up gaming podcast or whatever. We'd really appreciate it. So, with all that out of the way, let's move on to our mailbag. Now, one question we got from Sam, and I love Sam to death, but this question is something we actually do already, like every year. So I'm not ignoring you, Sam, but we will get to your question when we do that yearly. We kind of have like a wrapping up the year podcast where we talk about our favorite moments from the year in gaming, anime, movies, anything that we partake in. We'll go across the board. label our favorite moments, what we enjoyed the most from the year, and that's basically what he's asking. I think there's a second part here that we can answer as well when we get there. But for the most part, it's like, what are your favorite gaming moments of this year? And what are you looking forward to for next year? But we'll answer the next year part. But Sam, you'll have a whole episode dedicated to this question when we get there near the end of this month. So first, we'll start with Frosty Shake dropping a question. Holy shit, bro.
Frosty Shake.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
We appreciate your you dropping in and leaving us an interesting question. So he says, hey guys, here's a generic and shallow question, but nobody has asked for it, so fuck it, why not? I recognize that Red Dead 2 and God of War both outclass Spider-Man, but goddamn, I had and still have so much fun with this game. And it fulfills...
I don't think it outclasses Spider-Man.
And it fulfills one of my ultimate power fantasies, which is mostly what games are all about at a core level, right? So Spider-Man wins my subjective game of the year, but Red Dead 2 is my objective game of the year, if that makes sense. So, what is y'all's personal game of the year for pure subjective fun factor? Love y'all, your pal, Frosty. So, I think we might have talked about this when we first put them up, but we'll go ahead and answer this real quick. Shawn, now, I'm going to throw this because you haven't played a lot of the games that were up for Game of the Year, but you've played a lot of games this year. So, out of all the games you've played this year, not ones that you've heard about, but ones that you have played through, what is your subjective game of the year? What do you think wowed you the most in fun factor, blah, 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 throughout this year? That's a hard question, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd probably say, I mean, if you, my favorite's in the change of my mood, but I'd probably say it's probably an even 50-50 split between Dragon Quest and Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, okay.
Yeah. Probably, I don't know. I mean, Spider-Man pissed me off because of the fucking drone missions. And I put it down and got angry and haven't gone back yet. Because I know I'm not going to be able to get everything because I am just, I can do everything in that game. Except for the drone missions. Like everything else, I did aces. Like the hardest fucking shit, I did aces. The drone mission showed up, I did it 3 times. I was like, fuck this game, I'm done. Like I watched video after video after video, still couldn't do it. Yeah. So yeah, I'd probably say, I guess because of that, like nothing in Dragon Quest made me want to walk away from it, so I'd probably say Dragon Quest. Maybe might edge it out by like 1%. And objectively, I'd probably have to say God of War because I can't stand Red Dead. Don't at me.
Don't at me. It's interesting because I think of a lot of games that I look back on this year and I have a lot of very fond like memories of, like games like Celeste, God of War. But if I'm thinking like straight fun, like just straight fun, something that just, I mean, I want to say Final Fantasy 14, but I don't know if that counts because MMO, it's an active.
No, you have to
thing.
say one that came out this year, and they haven't dropped a new. Yeah, I mean, you might be able to get away with saying like Heaven's Word or Storm, but
Stormblood.
Not.
I think even Stormblood came out last year, so.
Yeah, that was last year. Has to be
because if I was to look at like direct playtime, I've put like probably like 22 days in Final Fantasy just in the last year, so that's one thing. But I would say, I guess, like straight fun, like something that blew me away as to how much I felt like I was enjoying myself while playing, would probably be Celeste. Like everything about Celeste, I think, is such like a clean fucking package, and just overall, from start to finish, that game was such a beautiful adventure. From the message that was telling, to the music, to the gameplay, to even there was a very decent skill gap going on too, as you kind of mastered the movement in that game, and just unlocking everything, finding all of the B tapes, and finding all these super difficult extra levels and stuff. Everything about it, just I loved to death. I fucking adored that game, and enough to play it through it like 2 times because I bought it on PC and Switch. So, and I 100%ed it on Switch, but I pretty close to doing it on PC. I just stopped playing. I think something else came out. But I adored Celeste. Like, I thought it was such a fucking amazing game. And one other one that I've been having a shitload of fun with that just came out super recently was Crosscode. It reminded me of it. And that's actually, like, for the little amount of time I spent in that, I've had so much fun with that game. Like, it blows me away. It's been such a good experience so far overall. And like, I love it to death. Same thing with Celeste. So yeah, I'd go for Celeste for my subjective game of the year. And objective game of the year, you've heard God of War. I think that game is phenomenal. Yeah, so Sam, we will have an episode dedicated to our favorite times looking back on this year. But what about next year? Shawn, what are you looking forward to for gaming for the next year? What games are you looking forward to?
I don't remember what's coming out next year anymore. Like, I've been so stressed, but I'm looking forward to Kingdom Hearts, which means
Fuck yes.
I've got to play through like 4 games with Hector, so we're gonna have to fucking
You have to do
really
January.
push that. Yeah, which is 2 weeks. So, but I might be able to talk him into getting the game and not playing it immediately. So I'm probably gonna try that. Right now, I'm just trying to figure out if I want to switch my pre-order to Amazon or not, because I've got a pre-order through GameStop and I get like one thing, and if you pre-order it through Amazon, you get some stupid key,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a modification. It's a repaint of another key. Well, whatever. I might just stick it with GameStop.
I'm gonna go through some of the things that we have confirmed for 2019 so far, or at least should be coming in 2019. We have Anthem, Psychonauts. I don't know if it's confirmed, but that's what the release date was said. I don't know if it could get pushed back. Days Gone, Metro Exodus, which has me personally fucking super excited. I love the Metro games. Division 2. Did you play through both of them? Yeah. Devil May Cry.
Yeah. Yes. Devil May Cry and Metro both, but especially Devil May Cry.
Another Fire Emblem game's coming out, which I didn't actually know. The actual next Pokemon game, I think, should be coming next year. So a third Wasteland game is coming. There's that game by the Firewatch team called Firepunk, or not Firepunk. Valley of the Gods wasn't even close. They have Cyberpunk on this list, but I highly fucking doubt it's coming out in 2019.
That's the big one too.
The Surge 2, Skull and Bones is coming out. Shenmue 3.
Yes, Shenmue. Yeah.
Rage 2. Resident Evil 2.
Yes,
Resident Evil 2 has got me fucking excited as well.
I pre-ordered that shit. I gotta put the pre-order in for Devil May Cry.
Yep. Another Dead or Alive. And they're taking away a lot of the booby physics. So
like an actual...
Yeah, Dead or Alive 6.
An actual disc release, not like a digital thing like they did with the last one.
I have no idea. Developer Team Ninja Promises.
The last one they released it on disc on PS3 and Xbox 360, and then when they re-released it on the other systems, they just released it as a download only, and the base game is free. It's like one character, and then you have to pay for everything else or some shit. It's fucking awful.
I'm really sad reading this for 2 reasons. Team Ninja Promises' latest iteration of its one-on-one brawler will be less about the jiggle and more about real anatomy. So that's one thing that saddens me. Secondary,
the fighting mechanics were always really good.
Let me finish. Secondary, it will be newcomer friendly too. Even if you haven't played a fighting game before, you should be able to pull off some cool moves by mashing buttons. So both of those sentences really saddened me.
What?
So let's continue.
Gears. That was the best part about Dead or Alive, was it wasn't a button masher.
Gears 5. The next Neo.
Yeah, but wasn't the last Gears game like weak as shit?
The next Neo looks fucking amazing, and the first game was phenomenal.
You mean the Dark Souls and Feudal Japan?
Yeah.
Neo.
Also Sekiro is coming out, the actual one from Dark Souls. They're
I already
saying
have that paid
they're
for.
saying Youngblood comes out in 2019. I didn't know that. So that's the co-op Wolfenstein game. That's exciting. The next Ori game's coming out.
Yeah. It's
Remedy,
what?
the next Ori in the Blind Forest game.
Uh,
Remedy, which we saw. I remember seeing stuff about it, and it was like this really, it has like this really weird, surreal vibe to it. Like the environments felt like dreamlike. Code Vein, it has me excited.
I have that paid for.
Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Jesus, there's so much here. Luigi's Mansion 3. Oh, fuck my penis. That's going to be cool. Oh, that's going to be cool. Okay, so amongst this list, I would say Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2, Psychonauts 2, Fire Emblem, if it's coming to Switch, Devil May Cry. God, this looks like already that we're having just another phenomenal year of games, which is insane. Kingdom Hearts 3 and the new Wolfenstein. Also the new Ori, and Remedy looks really interesting too. Code Vein. So yeah, everything, Sam. Everything is what I'm looking forward to next year. Besides Anthem. No, I'm just playing. I hope BioWare makes a good game. And they're not fucking eviscerated by EA. We'll see what happens. But I've been led to believe otherwise, so we'll see. So that's that. We appreciate the questions, guys. If you guys do want to send us in questions, Shawn, did you have any additional ones to add? I know you were shouting them out as I was reading them off.
No, my shoutouts were sufficient.
Okay, cool. If you guys want to send us in questions, you can do so a couple of ways. Easiest way is through our Discord. You could also send us at our email, thoughtpatrolcast@gmail.com, through Facebook. I think you can message pages on Facebook. I still don't know. And Twitter with the hashtag TPMailbag. You can do it all that way. We appreciate hearing from you guys. We have no filters here. Literally ask anything. We will answer. And we'd appreciate you guys giving us content. That's all this is for, the content. Got to fill up this 2-hour span somehow. So with the mailbag out of the way, our next segment, we have box office tops. We got some films that came out. Shawn, just take a wild guess. Just a wild guess at what you think number one is.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, fucking Spider-Man. I haven't seen this movie yet.
I haven't either. I want to go see it this weekend.
I do too. I've heard very good things about it actually, and I'm super excited to see it. I love you guys. If you guys have listened to this podcast for like maybe 2 weeks, you would know that I fucking adore animation as a whole. I love animation so much. And the animation in this movie is so visually appealing to me with the comic book style, and the way that they have it is so fucking fancy. Kind of in the realms of like what Persona 5 is. It like oozes style, and I love it. And I want to see it, and I want it to just flood into my eyeballs so that I may enjoy it. So I'm super excited to see this film. And on top of that, it's Spider-Man too. So like all of that, everything about it is a yes for me. So I'm super excited. What else? What am I looking at here? So we have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse has grossed $35 million for the weekend, sitting at a total of $56 million worldwide, with a budget of $90 million. At number 2, we have The Mule, which is that new. I don't know if it's directed by Clint Eastwood, but I know he's in there, and he looks old as shit. Every movie Clint Eastwood has been in the past, like, I mean, I know he is old as shit, but I always feel like they make him look closer to death than he really is, kind of thing. I don't know. What does he look like actually? Let's see. Probably looks like shit. He doesn't look that bad. In all these movies, he looks like he's fucking on death's door. But just a picture of him, he looks. Oh, maybe not. Maybe that was a good image. Oh, maybe he does look like shit. Okay, never mind. Never mind. Whatever. But yeah, that came out, pulled $17 million for the weekend, sitting at a total worldwide of 17 mil. Hasn't pulled anything else. Did he direct this? Yeah, he did direct it. Okay. At number 3, we have Dr. Seuss the Grinch, still holding up there, sitting at 11 million for the weekend, sitting at a total worldwide of 372 million. At number 4, we have Ralph Breaks the Internet, sitting at 9.5 million with a total of 285 million. And at number 5, we have Mortal Engines, pulling 7.5 million for the weekend.
Oh, I want to see that.
Sitting at a total of 42 million. Everything about this movie reminds me of Howl's Moving Castle. The look of like the cities driving around and shit like that. Other things that came out. Oh, Once Upon a Deadpool actually came out. Pulled 2.5 million. It's pretty much just Deadpool 2, but it's PG-13 or whatever.
Didn't they add in some new scenes and take out some other ones and shit?
Yeah, it's the same story beats, but I think they did it for something along the lines of like wasn't it for like a foreign release to get into more countries or some shit like that? I don't remember exactly why they did it.
Maybe they improved it because the second one was a shitty fucking movie.
I mean, I didn't think the first one was all that good. I just thought they were fun. I didn't really think that they were.
Well, the first one was flawed, but it was decent. There was a lot of problems, but it was still fairly decent for what it was. And I mean, it had a shitty bad guy, and they didn't really bring in most of Deadpool's details. They only brought in like a superficial version of Deadpool, like a shell of Deadpool. That's definitely not the Deadpool I know from any other format. That's like the clown version of Deadpool. And like I said, the bad guy and the general plot momentum, like the whole purpose of the fucking story was stupid. Like Francis and all that crap. All the rest of it still felt like it was close enough that I could enjoy it. But the second one was a stupid comic strip of fart jokes and dick jokes, and they ruined Cable, and they ruined Deadpool, and they ruined Juggernaut for fuck's. I mean, they shoved a fucking power line in his butthole. Really? That's how you're gonna do that? Like all the cool shit you could do with a Deadpool movie, and that's how you do it. Like it was just so far outside of what would happen in a Deadpool. Like the kind of insanity that happens in the Deadpool comic book is insanity, and it's still awesome, and it can be very goofy, almost along those lines, but it's just not that. That was just so. And that kid, the stupid fat kid.
Yeah.
I hated everything about him, start to finish. Everything.
It was a Dora the Explorer episode, what it was.
Yeah, it was really fucking stupid, and that makes me sad.
Okay.
Like I don't understand why it took that kind of dip. So fuck that movie.
All right. So that's that box office tops. So going on in the theaters, what's doing well. Next, we have our review corner.
Good greetings and good cheer for all who draw near, for the Thought Patrol crew has a gift for you. Splendor and awe from the greatest flicks even Saint Nick would guffaw. Welcome to 31 Days with the Thought Patrol podcast.
And we're actually starting to review Christmas films. Fuck yeah. And there should be a drop that played before that. I just remembered that I'm going to have to make one. I can't use the one from last year. It was okay. It was okay. We'll see. I'll probably listen to it and be like, I wasn't that good. So, yep, we tasked you guys with watching some films, and then I didn't watch them because I forgot. But now we're back here, and we have 3 to talk about, which is Elf, Nightmare Before Christmas, and Christmas Chronicles. So, we'll start with the worst, or I guess, in our opinions.
I have the most to say about Christmas Chronicles.
Okay. Yeah, Elf and Nightmare Before Christmas, the thing about them is like, for the most part, everyone listening knows what they are. They know that they're good. A lot of it would just be whether or not they hold up to us at the very least. So there's not really that much to say about them. But the Christmas Chronicles, I watched this film. Now, it was not a good movie. But the thing is with my expectations were not high whatsoever. So I didn't expect a good movie. So it wasn't to the level where I was offended to I guess. So I don't really have too much to say besides the fact that it was just less than average. Like, and I'll have Shawn kind of go deep. I think, Shawn, when you sit down and watch a movie, you are much more like vigilant as to what's going on. Where I can watch a film and completely veg the fuck out if the film doesn't interest me, and then before I know it, an hour and a half or whatever has passed and the movie's over. And then
Yeah, I have a hard time turning my brain off.
yeah, I can do it in a heartbeat. And you could probably tell that from half of our podcast episodes. So I'll have you, Shawn, start with your problem with the Christmas Chronicles, and then I'll kind of go into what I thought of the film for what I watched, and then we'll move from there. So give it to him, Shawn. What'd you think about it?
Well, what I liked about the movie was I liked, and put a tack in this, but I liked Kurt Russell in this movie because he was Kurt Russell being Kurt Russell.
I would agree.
Like he was charismatic. He was fun to watch. Even maybe during the cringiest parts, it was a little hard to watch him do stuff. But I never got the feeling like he was just phoning it in for a paycheck. I mean, he was obviously just doing this for a paycheck, but it wasn't like, I felt like he was sleepwalking through most of the role. Like, he had fun with it. He did his job. He did what he got paid for. I would say, well, again, put a tack on that. So the rest of the movie is like 5 different kind of Christmas movies smashed together to make one fucking awful movie. Just giant fucking turd of a movie. And I can't fathom. I didn't even look to see how many writers there were, but it was batshit how these writers, whoever made the guys behind making this movie, did not understand what makes Santa Claus tick, what makes him special, what the spirit of Christmas is, like anything that makes an actual Christmas movie important, which is one of the reasons why I paired this up with Elf. Was because even though Elf has parts of it that kind of push it a little outside of a Christmas movie or make it a little more bizarre than a Christmas movie should be, and incorporate types of humor that really don't always belong in a Christmas movie, the thing is Elf always nailed that Christmas feeling, that love and that togetherness and that complete innocence and forgiveness. Like, they nailed that. And because they got some of that essence of Christmas perfect, and they really socketed that in, the rest of the movie's parts that didn't exactly jive with what should be a part of Christmas were able to fit, really nice.
And normally, one thing is, it wouldn't normally be that technically bad if the movie did not take itself seriously, but I felt like there were some elements of this film that did take itself seriously, Christmas Chronicles. And I think that kind of it will rub you the wrong way, because you have things like, again, things that kind of almost are blasphemous to the idea of Santa, and then in a realm where it's not just like a bad Santa Claus or like a comedy in that or a parody in that.
Yeah,
like there's
Billy
actual
Bob Thornton playing an ex-con thief dressed as Santa. This is actual
Santa, and there are actual like things that happen that have like weight to them, or there are elements of the story that have weight to it. Like, again, with the broken family idea at the start, or the idea that if the power of Christmas spirit is weak, you'll have apocalyptic level events going on, like the Dark Ages or wars or things along the line. And you think I'm over exaggerating here, but these are things taken from the film. These are things said in the movie.
Oh yeah.
That because there was a lack of Christmas spirit, we had things like the Dark Ages, like World Wars, because of that reason. And just the like, if the film was Santa doing dumb things like stealing cars or having fucking prisoners doing dance routines and shit like that, and then on top of that, it didn't take itself too seriously, that'd be like, go ahead.
You're jumping your points so like rapid fire. This is like the super condensed version.
Yeah,
I love it. No, I'm laughing just how you're moving around. You're good. I'll come back when you're done. I'm enjoying this.
Again, that my brain was not necessarily fully, again, vigilant will be the key word here. It's the word of the day.
No, you caught the important shitty parts.
And with those, it's just it feels like there's a weird mesh going on, and it just doesn't. It just makes you feel like disconjointed watching it, and I don't know. And it again, I think the best part of the movie was what's his name, Kurt Russell. I don't know. Yeah, I think he was. I think he did a very decent job at being Santa and working with what he had with this whole storyline and all that shit that did eventually go down. So, but yeah, I'm kind of like cherry picking out like elements of the story that kind of were just to like, oh yeah, this is kind of the point I'm making. I don't know why I'm explaining myself. Whatever.
Yeah. To make it easier on the listeners, there's a couple of different plot threads going on, none of which go anywhere. But it starts off with this dysfunctional mom who's played by a good actress. I didn't care enough about this movie to come at it from a respectable position, but she's a good actress. She didn't get any fucking screen time, so whatever. But it's a broken home because dad died. It starts off with this vignette of like
Kimberly Williams Paisley. That's her name.
Yeah, she's
Claire Pierce. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't really say the same
do
about
this
the
montage
kids.
to build up this family warmth, and then directly after that, they show you exactly how little warmth there is left in the family. Like the is slightly on the obnoxious side, but for the most part, she's a decent kid. The brother is headed straight for prison, like he's stealing cars and shit, and probably producing porn. Who knows? And mom has to work like all kind of crazy, and of course she's a nurse because anytime it's a broken family and mom's taking care of everything, she's always a nurse. But she's a nurse and she works all kinds of crazy hours, so she's not home a lot. So you got these latchkey kids. So it starts off with that. So the Christmas movie starts off with dead dad right off the bat. And they start insinuating that he died in a fire rescuing people. I think they might have actually said that at some point. And the whole time they're building up this kid's resentment. Oh, fuck this movie. But that they start off with this garbage, right? Now it's okay to start off in one place with sadness. You can have sadness in a Santa movie. As a matter of fact, that can be a linchpin point of the plot. If you look at the Santa Claus the movie, which we watched last year, I mean, it's a goofy, hokey, old timey style fucking 80s movie, but they did have all of the important parts to make it a decent Christmas film. I wouldn't put it on the same level as like the Grinch cartoon or Scrooged or fucking, Elf or even Jim Carrey's Grinch. But it's still a good Christmas movie, and it's an excellent Christmas movie for kids. And the set design of that was fantastic. But I'm not talking about that movie. The thing about that movie is they had a kid who was homeless, right? He didn't have a family. He didn't have a place to live. And that's really sad. And that's this really dark, harsh thing. Now, they sugarcoat the fuck out of it, but you still see some of that harshness. You see him hungry. You see him in the cold. You can have that in the movie. But what this movie does is it takes this kid who isn't just homeless, who isn't experiencing this one thing with a softness around it that you can, and they don't make him embraceable. They don't make him likable. He's kind of a douche. And then they have him and his sister not getting along. They have them both being kind of worthless.
Mm-hmm.
And then Santa comes along and pretends to derail Christmas to try and put this family back together. And the way that Santa does this is crashing his sleigh, unleashing murderous elves, stealing a car, getting locked up in prison, and doing a Blues Brothers style impromptu blues set in prison with hookers and drug dealers. And he tries through the whole fucking movie to bribe people with their presents. The presents they were already going to receive, or maybe presents they wanted when they were 5. He's like, hey, remember this present? He just magically pulls shit out of his fucking coat anytime he needs it, like a guitar,
I got a
fucking
wooden
Hot
train
Wheels.
for you.
Yeah. Like, it's fucking retarded. And the thing about it that gets me is Santa as a character is inviolate. Unless you're in like Kyle said earlier, unless you're making a movie that's the fact that, hey, Santa's stealing cars and doing this, or that's the entire point of this movie. But in this movie, it's supposed to be about the Christmas spirit. It's supposed to be about love. It's supposed to be about togetherness. It's supposed to be about finding the heart of your family again. And what ends up happening is Santa kidnaps two kids on accident because the car thief and his obnoxious sister jump into his sleigh when it's parked. And then he takes off, supposedly not knowing they're there. At the end of the movie, you find out everything was completely intentional, which defeats the purpose, but whatever. Is surprised by them, crashes his sleigh, and then they decide that they're going to help him save Christmas because Santa implies that the last time that he didn't get around to delivering all the presents, Christmas spirit dipped in children, and World War II broke out. What the fuck is that statement even doing in a Christmas movie?
I'm sorry, little
cars and doing song and dance routines with hookers. Why is Santa trying to bribe a cop with a Hot Wheels car he wanted when he was 7?
It reminds me of I'm sorry, little Jewish Jimmy. Your father was gassed because I couldn't deliver my presents.
Look, this may not sound like a big deal to you. But let me give you two different scenes, all right? You have one scene where Santa gets brought into jail because they think he's a bad person, communication of identity, and Santa charms his way into them because he is Santa Claus.
Yeah, charisma.
And you feel that magic in your chest.
Ho, ho, ho,
and you
bitches.
know that he's Santa Claus, right? And then you have another one where he's like, hey, I'm Santa Claus. And the cop is like, yeah, and I'm the Easter Bunny. And then Santa's like, all right, I'll tell you what. I give you this Hot Wheels car. I give you this G.I. Joe doll you wanted when you were 10. I give you this other thing. And the first thought I'm thinking is, well, number one, why didn't you give it to him then? And number two, you're bribing a police officer with toys. This is how Santa thinks that he's supposed to communicate with people, is to offer them presents, either ones that he was going to give them for Christmas with some characters already, or ones that I guess he didn't give them, or duplicates of ones he gave them. I don't even know. Santa works his magic and gets a cop back together with his ex-wife, trying to bribe him to let him out of jail so he can go save Christmas. It's like that just don't jive with who Santa is. I don't feel like the people that made this movie understood what Santa was, understood what he means to children, understood the symbology behind the character and why it's so sacred and why it has endured this long. I don't think they understood that. They saw Santa as a character, and they sat around and they pulled a Quentin Tarantino. They were like, "All right, so what do we need? All right, we're gonna have Santa. All right, his hat's magical. Well, it's not really, but it's magical. And all right, the elves are psychotic and they murder people.
Yep.
But off camera,
attack children.
Yeah. By the way, Santa leaves the children, gets arrested, and the children are by themselves, and they go and find his magic sack. Snicker, snicker.
I was going to say.
Get accosted in a park by two street punks. All right, check this out. So the two street punks then kidnap, in a Christmas movie, both children and their sack, Santa's magic sack, take the sack and the two children to a chop shop. Or just like it doesn't even fucking make sense. A gang of thieves hiding out in a warehouse. Like there's cars in there and there's boxes and whatever. And then, at the epitome of reality, when they realize that there's nothing in the sack of value, they go to throw the children into an incinerator. And it almost happened. So they decide to murder children as a gag in a Christmas movie you're going to be watching with kids.
And if you think,
again,
if
that
you
might shoot over there. Yeah, go ahead.
Also, a lot of this is all in the realms of, because you find out near the end that, although they hint at it early pretty much, but the idea is that Santa has a list, not like the naughty or nice list, but people that believe in Santa. These people believe in Santa.
Yeah.
They believe in Santa, blah blah blah. And you find out that all of the girl. What's her name? Kate. What was her name? Kate? Was that Kate or some shit?
I don't fucking remember.
Something like that.
Shitty actress.
Her whole family believes in Santa besides her brother, who was some stupid name too.
Poor director. Yeah, the kids were horribly acted. Like they were shit-tastic actors.
So
terrible.
So you come across all this. You have all these beautiful events that are life-threatening, and then Santa's like, "Oh, my hat's not magical. Don't worry about it. You can actually keep it. Here you go." He also does so he's like kind of in a way lying to these kids, and it all kind of feels like in an effort. Oh, the dog went off the bed. What else is new? Dog? You fucking cunt. So all this is in an effort to take Teddy. Bro, I swear to God. All this is in an effort to make Teddy a true believer, which at the end, we add Teddy's name to it. So Teddy is now a true believer, and then they cringily, because apparently all this shit got recorded, so they cringily asked to watch the whole night with Mr. and Mrs. Santa.
They decided to watch the video cassette because the little girl was recording everything that was happening. So you find out at the end that the whole wreck and everything that happened throughout that night, supposedly was all planned out by Santa to he doesn't say this, but it's basically to heal the kid's heart because he's bitter over not being, his dad dying or not being able to say goodbye. They don't really come out and they try and say that he's angry at his dad because his dad left. Because he died saving some people, I think, in a fire or as a cop.
Yeah, he's a firefighter.
I think he was a firefighter.
Yeah.
So his dad died, and he's angry that his dad went and saved or did something risky and sacrificed himself. No, again, they imply shit. They never come out and say it. But the heavy implication is that he's angry at his dad because his dad placed the lives of the people he saved over staying alive for his kids. And so because of that, he's turned into a car thief. So Santa decides that he will fake wrecking the sled and let his reindeer loose and everything because he knows that he can undo all the damage because he's Santa.
Yeah, almost throw the world into a...
Yeah.
Now, so that makes me think... He
basically pretends that the world is going to fly into the seventh pit of hell.
Yeah, if I don't get these fucking presents delivered.
Love each other and be warm with their family again and forgive the dad. But then at the end, he's like... When he sees his dad, he says the one thing he always wanted to say to him, which was, "I'm proud of you."
Yeah. Which
doesn't jive with any of the rest of the movie at all, or any of whatever motivations they were trying to give this shitbrick of a character. And so my thing is okay, so Santa knew at the beginning of the night, no matter what, his Santa magic would fix things. So he knew that the children were, somebody was going to attempt to murder them. He knew that really fucking stupid elves were going to bounce out of the bag. The only thing that made me laugh during this whole thing is when, oh, by the way, the elves went after the kid with a chainsaw. Like they were going to murder the boy with a chainsaw. It almost happened because they thought the boy was one of the thieves, one of the guys in the warehouse. That's another thing that I remember stuck out to me really vibrantly was the fact that an elf almost carved a kid in half with a chainsaw.
Beautiful.
But again, the thieves stealing the kids, Santa stealing a car, the thieves trying to kill the kids, the Santa end up in jail. That would have worked in a Billy Bob Thornton movie. It does not work in a Christmas spirit movie. The Santa coming up with an elaborate plot to put a family back together and put love back in their hearts and help them feel the Christmas spirit again, that could work. Even with a dead dad, that could work. But it's all in how it's all in the framing devices. It's all in how the story's put together. It has to have a cast that can fucking carry it. Because if you really tear apart a Christmas movie, they're all pretty fucking dopey. So you really need interesting characters and a decent cast that can carry it. And I think that Kurt Russell could play any kind of Santa. I think he was playing like 3 different kinds of Santa in this movie. So it's like it's like 3 different characters that all look the same. Sometimes he is that warm, perfect, saintly, friendly Santa. Sometimes he's almost that, but maybe he's not the Santa we quite understood. He's thinner. He's in good shape. He's got a modern sense of humor. He understands, the real world. He's got a sense of what is in people's hearts, but he's a little bit more modern take. And then the third version of Santa is the one that, again, pulls a saxophone out of his ass. No, a piano out of his ass, and does a song and dance routine in jail with hookers and drug dealers. The three different Santas. Oh, and that Santa also likes to bribe people with presents. There are elements that just don't feel right in a Christmas movie that is what this movie says it was trying to be. And it feels like there was a bunch of writers. They wrote a bunch of stuff they thought worked. They glued it all together, and you ended up with this garbage piece of mess. And I can only tell you that it is absolutely, under all circumstances, not worth 90 minutes of your time. The only good part about it was there's one scene where an elf made me laugh because they dropped a fucking blowtorch when they were about to torture somebody, and they realized it was the kid. Like, oh, and then they dropped the blowtorch like it was never there. So that part made me laugh, and I think that's in the trailer, so you don't even have to watch the movie for that. I like Kurt Russell. It was nice seeing him playing a character with a twinkle in his eye again. And at the very end, there's an Easter egg where when Mrs. Claus comes in, it's Kurt Russell's actual life partner, Goldie Hawn, which as soon as I saw the boots walking on the floor, that's one of her signature things in her movies. Like when she walks into a scene, the camera always starts with her shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Not always, but that's like, it happens at least once in every one of her movies. And as soon as the camera hit her shoes, I'm like, fuck yeah, tell me it's Goldie Hawn. Tell me it's Goldie Hawn. And then she went over, she bit down, she put something down, she turned around, I heard her voice. I was like, oh yeah, that's cool for those of us who remember Kurt and Goldie from the good old days. So that was nice. So if I was to add up everything that's nice, Kurt Russell is cool. Kurt Russell had a cameo with his wife, which was all of 15 seconds. And there was one tiny elf bit that made me laugh. By the way, the elves are fucking stupid. North Pole looked cool, though. That was the only good part of set design in the entire fucking movie. But the rest of it was contrived plot devices, forced plot elements that don't fit together, and a movie that does not understand what makes a Christmas movie and who Santa Claus is. Done. Fuck that shit. Don't watch
Okay,
it.
so ranking.
I give it 0 limp no. I'll give it 1 limp candy cane because of the reasons that I mentioned, those 3 points.
Okay.
Out of 5.
Okay. I'll one up you. I'll give it I'm thinking of something from the movie. I'll give it 1.5 dead dads out of 5.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think that's a good one. So 1.5 dead dads out of 5.
Look at this boy. That boy's halfway to being Batman.
He's got a point. Just got to kill his mother. I can see him. I can see it now. It's the sequel. Then Santa has to come and actually start the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse coming down to Earth, and then that's how he inspires the boy to relearn his family love after inflicting apocalyptic holocaust on the planet.
Could you imagine if one exceptionally stupid child watches this fucking movie and then hears that the 1 year that Santa isn't able to deliver all the presents, that World War III will break out, and now they're not excited to receive presents from Santa. Now they're terrified. What if he doesn't make it?
Yeah. Bro.
You know, like,
and then one day the parents like forget the presents in the garage or some shit, and he comes downstairs and he's just like bawling his eyes out. He's pronouncing the end of the world.
In a panic room.
Yeah. Even further, he goes straight to the kitchen. He grabs a knife, commits seppuku before the world ends because he doesn't want to suffer. Yeah, I can see that.
The movie was a fucking mess.
All right.
So on to the ones that we did like.
Elf. We'll start with Elf.
All right. How well did Elf hold up? What, 14 years later?
Let's Google.
2004 or 2002?
I'm Googling.
I knew this a week ago.
2003, but it was the end of 2003. Yeah.
Yeah. So how does Elf hold up 15 years later.
I still think it's pretty good. Like, I enjoyed it a lot watching it. And now again, it's not like I'm not like one of the people to like watch something every year. So I haven't seen Elf in a long time. I saw it when it first came out or around that time, and then maybe like 2010, something like that. And then I haven't watched it since. So
I think I've seen it like 3 times total.
yeah, I still think that overall it is a good movie still. Like, I could look at this film and see like, okay, I understand why this is like a Christmas classic. Like, there was a good
Yeah.
point going on with the film. I like I'm always a fan of like the story trope where it's like the Tarzan, like the naive
The fish out of water.
yeah, the naive, again, fish out of water, coming to like bustling New York and experiencing like what's the word I'm trying to think of? Like, it's not humanity.
Culture shock.
But yeah, basically that. And
Only Buddy, the thing about Buddy is Buddy, unlike Crocodile Dundee and the Tarzan movies where he comes to the big city and shit like that. Well, Crocodile Dundee had I wouldn't say he was shocked. He just rolled with the punches, but he definitely ran face first into another culture. He just rolled with it. Whereas Tarzan had no fucking idea what to do with it. and in this one, Buddy's too stupid to understand that there's a difference. Like, Buddy is he's almost like a child, and he has no knowledge of what the world is like. So
well, yeah, I think mentally I think mentally he is childish, even though he's again pretty much full grown. And even to the point where you see
supposed to be 40.
From like small things, like you see like when he's like put to be doing like the toy testing back before he goes and stuff like that, you see that again, they're technically, I mean, I guess if you look at it in the eyes of his world, they wouldn't technically be small things, but to us they're considered like smaller things, and they have like a bit of a toll on him, like because of the way that he's been raised. And I don't think, like, if you were to look at any elf, obviously you're detracted from civilization and shit like that. So it's understandable, just again, the culture shock and shit like that. And I liked Will Ferrell in this movie too. I thought he did a very good job. I thought I liked him playing the part, him being Buddy, and overall, I think he did. What am I trying to say? I think he did a good job. He did a good job. Fuck. Oh my goodness, I'm losing my mind.
I like this movie because of Will Ferrell. I like this movie because I love this movie because of Zooey Deschanel. Because I have always had a geek boner for her.
What was her name? Jovi? Ovi? Whatever her name is.
Yeah.
Yeah. The love interest.
I liked James Caan as the dad. I liked I just forgot her name, but the chick from Back to the Future 3 as the mom. Like, I liked all of that. I liked the dynamic, and I think that there are parts of Elf that don't quite sit right with me. Like, I don't like Santa. I've never been a fan of Ed Asner, and I don't feel like I feel like the part that I didn't like about Elf was I feel like Santa would always have unconditional love for Buddy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the very beginning of the film, it's shown that everyone loves him, but they're annoyed by him.
Yeah.
They tolerate him, you know?
Yeah.
That part I didn't like because that doesn't feel like the North Pole to me. Like, the child in me that always wants to believe in that magic and not let go of it, that part is the part that nags me when I'm watching that movie. The rest of the movie, I kind of wish Buddy wasn't as stupid as he is. But I get it. He's a surrogate for the kids. Like, it's so the kid can see themselves in the character.
I think
this
movie
wasn't made for adults. They just put stuff in it so that adults could enjoy it too, like Shrek. But maybe less extreme than Shrek. Shrek's a more extreme.
I think if you're ever going to introduce some form of love interest, you don't want to have a dumb, like, male as the opposite to that love interest. I always think that those relationships annoy the fuck out of me to like no end.
Just like if the girl's dumb and the guy's not, like, anytime they're not,
it's not gender exclusive.
It just doesn't feel it just doesn't feel believable. Yeah, I had to watch this movie. Even when I watch it now, like, I don't quite believe it. But the more you watch it, the more the relationship becomes a little more copacetic. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's just brainwashing or fucking Stockholm syndrome or what, but the first time I watched it, I was like, you got a chick who's streetwise, world weary, but still holds on to that feeling of Christmas enough to sing in the shower, and somehow she falls in love with a guy that eats gum off of staircases and drinks syrup and does not understand. Like
love is love, man. You can't pick who you fall in love with.
The thing about Elf is it makes it, there's enough magic and enough innocence and enough love to the characters that, and Bob, by the way, Bob Newhart was fucking fantastic in this movie. If you're going to have a sarcastic, kind of loving elf, like, who constantly gets taken advantage of, Bob Newhart's the perfect guy for the role. Like, I love Buddy's adoptive dad was perfect. But, like, there was enough innocence in this movie that you forgave its faults. Like, Santa, I always got the feeling that he loved Buddy, but just didn't like him a lot or something. I don't know. Santa just rubs me the wrong way. But for the most part, I do love this movie. I love this movie when he gets to New York. I love the movie when the camera is just really enjoying Will Ferrell being Will Ferrell. And I think the dichotomy between him and his dad was nice. And I think, again, it is flawed. It is clearly flawed. There are elements that did not feel right in the movie for a Christmas movie, like the Santa bit, like the way the elves were treating him. Like, I would have, but a lot of it's forgivable.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, like, the kind of like the charisma of both the cast and the story, it kind of trumps, like, trumps is a strong word, but it kind of overshadows the smaller faults that exist as well.
I think the only part that really I can't, because I forgave the unbelievable relationship, and I forgave Buddy's sheer amount of stupidity, and I even forgave the elves, basically tolerating Buddy. Like, I could handle all that, and to the point, handle it enough to even like that. I like it, even though it's not perfect for the film. But the part that I'll never be able to get a handle on is just how unlovable Santa feels. That's the only part that really gets me. Santa really just feels like that kind of next door neighbor, you have, where he's a nice enough guy, but he just, after he says a couple of nice things, he just starts complaining about shit.
Yeah.
Like the weather and the mailman and his power bill and his, skin rash. And, like, that's the kind of fucking character Santa comes off to me as. Like, he just doesn't feel like Santa Claus. And I think that if they had just gotten a better actor to play Santa and maybe giving him warmer, dialogue, or maybe just not featured him on screen as much, something like that. Like, I think the rest of the movie would have gelled better for me. But overall, I still consider it a modern classic. I still love the movie enough to have bought it 3 times. Not the same way that you bought Nier, just to be clear. Bought it once, gave it to my daughter, bought it again because I wanted the Blu-ray and it came with the DVD, and then bought it a 3rd time because I lost that. Because there's very few movies that I consider Christmas classics, and that one was good enough to be one, which is why it does get constant rotation every year now.
Yeah.
So I think that I still think it's a solid movie. I think at worst it's a B- kind of movie, which and on a good day, which is any day that you watch it, it's going to be like a B+, A- kind of situation. So I was pretty happy with it. And again, I think there's a few elements that just don't feel right, but the charisma of the movie and the love for the characters and the fact that I think that movie just wants the audience to laugh, and they just want them to feel good. And that really does a lot to cover up its flaws.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, so for a rating for Elf, what you got, Shawn?
I give it 4 previously chewed pieces of gum out of 5.
Okay. I would agree. I would give it 4 human babies crawling into Santa's sack out of 5. I would
Nice.
Yeah. I'm not. When you were talking the last like I don't know like 2 or 3 minutes, and you're finishing up your point, I was sitting here like toiling away. I'm like, I gotta think of fucking something, bro. Like for the review things, I was like drawing a blank, so I went full. I devoted the 10 remaining percent of my brain to finishing that off. But yeah, I love this
face
movie.
just shuts off. He starts drooling.
Yeah, you hear me like just all you hear is like light breathing coming from the mic. All right, finally, night before Christmas. Again, Shawn and your analytical ass self.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
What do we think here? Did it hold up? I'm gonna say straight up. My short answer is yes. I fucking adore this movie. But Shawn, take it away. What you got?
I feel when I first watched this movie, when I was a kid, I did not know what to make of it. Now, I grew up goth, so the aesthetic I adored, but I didn't understand the mishmash of holidays. Like those two holidays do not cross in my head whatsoever. So it was interesting because you had half of my brain just joygasming over the fact that finally, yeah, I mean, I always appreciated the fact that Tim Burton, coming from a place where I come from, aesthetically speaking, catered to my crowd. Um, and especially in a movie like this and Corpse Bride, he really dove fucking full on in.
Yeah.
But when I first watched it, it was like a joy. Like I didn't know what to make of it, so everything that happened was a surprise. And even though nothing really made sense, like because nothing in that movie actually makes sense. I loved it, but I walked away from it with like love, but also like this strange bit of confusion as I tried to make sense of anything, because they really do zero world building. Like there's no world building whatsoever. You just kind of have to accept what is.
Like even when you think about it, when like Jack comes back from Christmas Town after and all that, he just starts like assigning citizens like Christmas themed stuff, and everyone's like he's like, oh yeah, let's all do this, and then everyone's just boom, almost like a Disney movie where everyone just has to listen to the main character because they're like main character, like let's just go with it, hells yeah. And then it just like, and when you think of it on paper, the idea sounds stupid, right? Let's take Halloween, Christmas, mash them together, and make a charismatic story out of it. But I think that's the key word there, the charismatic element, like with the animation, the music, and everything about it. I think he does a very good job of sticking these two fucking, oh my god, holidays next to each other. And again, it's just something that when you think of it on paper, and I think that kind of falls in place with a lot of Tim Burton things, where when you think of it on paper, it doesn't sound like a good idea, but then just because it's a Tim Burton thing and like the charisma that exists within his like directorial work and shit like that, although he didn't really direct this, he produced it though, right?
He produced it, and Henry Selick, I think his name was, directed it.
Back to Google. There we go. Nightmare Before Christmas.
I know he didn't direct it.
Yeah, Henry Selick directed, and it was produced by Tim Burton and Denise Di So, but yeah, it's definitely feels like one of those. It's kind of like almost like a Disney film, where in the realms of like, I would agree that depending on the film, a lot of the time you don't get like huge like deep dives into the world and how we got to where we are. It's just the characters there, and then the story moves forward from that point. So I would agree in that regard. But I don't know, there's just something about this film that just puts a smile on my face, and I think it really heavily just involves the fact that not only am I getting the spirit of Halloween, but I'm also getting elements of the spirit of Christmas as well. And
it's a both movie. Yeah. It is. I watch it around Halloween and I watch it around Christmas every year.
And it works both ways. Like, I would agree absolutely.
So as a kid, I loved it, and every year, and when it came out, it didn't really strike. Like, it didn't make a ton of money. It built off a cult following. But as a kid, I loved it. I just couldn't, like, I wasn't used to seeing movies that did zero world building and zero character building and zero anything building. We're just like, here, stuff happens. Awesome. You know? So my analytical mind was trying to make sense of it rather than just enjoying it for what it is. And then every subsequent time I saw it, I loved it even more. But I will say that I do remember being divided, but it was a kind of divided that was a dichotomy. They both existed at the same time. Like, I loved it because it was Tim Burton and it was awesome, and that was all I needed. Which is generally how I fucking work with Tim Burton when he's not working for Disney. And then there's the other half of me that already, even at that age, it needed more from what he dove into. And I kept trying to figure out, like, the part that I kept coming back to is, where was the border between worlds? Like, does every world have this interdimensional vortex of doors? How does that work? Like, just trying to like, I was doing that shit when I left the theater, just so you know what I was like as a kid. Now when I watch it as an adult, like, I get the nostalgia kick. I still love the animation, the voice acting. I love the sweet story, and it essentially is a storybook story.
Yeah.
It is a bedtime story. Bedtime stories have like zero detail.
Yeah. You know, it kind of,
it's like, this happens, go to sleep. So this movie is a bedtime storybook, and I take it as such, and I love everything about it. That doesn't mean it doesn't have its faults. Like, the story is weak. You really don't understand why Jack got bored, except for that he's been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
Like, there's the part that makes it weak is a part that, even more so than Elf, you can completely look past. It's very short. I think it could have used another 10-15 minutes of plot, dialogue, characters. I think that motivations don't really get built for much of anyone. Oogie does bad stuff because he's Oogie. Jack does crazy stuff because, and let's get this very, very clear. Jack is a confused man-child. He's not responsible. He is not a good example of a main character. Like, if you really look at him, he's an idiot.
No, yeah, that's the idea that
lovable idiot.
Yeah,
but he is a complete fucking idiot. And then at the end of the movie, after he's wrecked like 2 holidays almost, he's sitting there, and he somehow, in his dumb brain, decides to turn it around and goes, well, what the heck? I really gave it my shot. Like he still somehow turns it around so that he's the victim. When in reality, he's kind of like a really, really stupid kidnapper terrorist.
Yeah. He's a dumber Grinch, pretty much.
Oh, so dumb.
He's a dumber Grinch.
He drops biological weapons down people's chimneys and puts them under their trees.
Yeah, starts that fucking attack
children.
I mean,
so
if
now
you think about it,
the world is being attacked by fucking demonic toys.
If you think
he has kidnapped Santa Claus, who's about to get eaten.
Yeah, killed by Oogie Boogie,
demonic monster. Yeah, he has put his entire home at risk.
His secret love interest. She also gets fucking captured and almost killed by Oogie as well.
And she's. And you really, I like the movie. Actually, I think it would have made a better story, just from a story's perspective, not from changing the movie. It would have made a better story if Sally was the main character and had to deal with Jack's stupid shit. Because again, I want everyone listening to know, this is not me, the me that loves this movie talking. This is just my adult brain watching this, going, holy fuck, this guy is the dumbest asshole I have ever seen. He is an asshole because he ignores everyone else's feelings and gets so wrapped up in his own feels and his own butt, just head right up there, right up his own rectum, that it does not
how
see
that
what's
bitch
going
fit
on around him or what it's causing people.
I just imagine him like bent over, his lanky ass self with his huge fucking head shoved up his ass. So it looks like he's got like a diaper almost on practically, because it's like bulging out because they fit. I agree with the thing with Sally being main character. I think that'd be pretty interesting, because then you also have a clear motive for the most part, and pretty much it's only that she loves him, but that's all you need sometimes, to be honest. And you can have a motive from that.
Why she loves him?
She just loves him. She loves him because he's stupid.
Just boom, loves him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's very much a male fantasy. Like, the guy is the most flawed character in the entire show, and everyone loves him and follows him around and does what he wants and adores him. He gets to do what he wants. He takes the holiday he wants. He has a girl that dotes on him that he doesn't even have to pay fucking attention to. They have no fucking romantic screen time up until the end.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even. Yeah, it's like the moment you start thinking about the movie, it falls apart like harder than an alcohol on Christmas Eve, like an alcoholic on Christmas Eve. It just goes to shit. Like, everything about this movie doesn't make sense. The characters' behavior don't make sense. Why people are together don't make sense. Anybody doing anything in this movie is fucking stupid. So you have to enjoy it as a storybook. And
yeah.
I do. But the moment you like this, out of the three movies, this one falls apart about as hard as fucking the Chronicles, the Christmas Chronicles, when you look at it with any kind of a critical eye or an adult eye. So you really can't. The great thing about the movie is, just because most of us have grown up with it, and those who haven't are still young enough that they're going to get that impact anyway, is that you can, every time you watch it, you're watching it with a child's eye. You just turn the adult eye off.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't do that with everything, but with this movie, it's very easy. You know, like, Jack's a lovable character, and he's a nice guy, and he just wants to do a different holiday, so he kidnaps somebody and steals theirs.
Yeah,
you know, that's
good. It's a good story to teach your kids. If you see your neighbor, they have something, got a nice new car, the kid across the street has a new bike, you take it for yourself. You go across you go across the street, you walk up that kid, and you fucking break his kneecaps. Take his bike.
And then in the last 5 minutes of the day, you realize you love his sister, and happy ended.
Yeah, and then you go raw dog her in the backyard.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's no, that's
although Jack did that with Sally, he'd start a brush fire, because, I mean, he doesn't have a dick, but he'd be fingering her with his fucking bones, and the bones create friction and light the leaves inside of her, and then
brush fire.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
You know, it's extremely, extremely flawed. The story is extremely stupid. Everything about this movie should make it fail. Everything about this movie should be something where everybody watches it or sees it and says, holy fuck, these characters are dumb. Everything is stupid. This is horrible. But the thing is, it's not. For some reason, in any other circumstances, this would have failed. But for some reason, it just works. And it works wonders, to the point where it is one of my most favorite movies, even though I know all of that. And it's extremely rare for me to see a movie, to see how horrible it actually should be, and how badly the characters are put together, and the story is put together, and it's written.
One interesting
and then
thing,
for me to realize it doesn't matter. It's still good, and it's still awesome.
Yeah, and one thing, as I was looking through, because I had Googled for the directors and stuff, and I was looking through the Wikipedia here real quick, and they said that it was originated as a poem written by Burton in 1982.
By Burton,
yeah,
I read it.
He began to consider developing it into either a short film or a 30-minute TV special, to no avail. And then over the years, he returned to the project, and in 1990, he made a deal with Walt Disney. Then it turned into the 76-minute feature that we have today.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's not a movie where you ever feel the desire to watch it as an adult, and you can do that with Elf, because it plays to both sides of the audience. But this movie does not play to adults whatsoever. It's not like extra stupid, like just for kids extra stupid, like the new Grinch animated movie is, or the new Wreck-It Ralph animated movie is.
It's like thin.
Fucking, I did not care for the new Wreck-It Ralph. There's so many problems with that movie, but I love the original. But I gotta say, when it comes to the new Wreck-It Ralph, I know we were talking about Angry Joe earlier in the day, or yesterday or whatever. I agree with Angry Joe's group assessment of Wreck-It Ralph, like 100%.
Okay.
But when it comes to The Nightmare Before Christmas, everything in it, on a purely technical level, outside of the artistry, really isn't good. it's really bad or cheap or dumb or lazy or whatever. And I know that on paper.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I sit down to watch it, I love the ever-loving shit of it. There's very few goth movies for goth kids, number one. Like, I can count the number of movies that were made for my people on, like, probably less than two hands, you know? And that's not true. There's probably about 10 or 15 of them. But I love this movie. I love everything about it. It's too short. I wish it would go on longer, but I just love it. I love the animation. I love the songs. I love the characters. I love the interactions. There isn't a single character in this show that isn't fucking fantastic to watch and listen to and see how they work. And it's just so creative and imaginative. The whole thing's like this just fever dream that blends my two favorite holidays.
Yeah.
So, you know, it will always be a great film to me, even if it really isn't one. The majority of the world still is going to treat it like it is, because what matters is how your emotions feel, not what the details on paper are.
Yeah. All right. So, rating. What do we give?
I give it 4.5 vampiric murder doll toys out of 5.
I'm gonna give it 5 portals to another holiday's town. Ambiguous portals to another holiday's town out of 5.
Yeah.
So we got one to Christmas town, one to Thanksgiving town, one to Easter town, one to Hanukkah town, and one to Veterans Day town. I couldn't fucking think of it.
The only reason I didn't give it a full 5 is it always just feels too short to me. Like, there's not enough story in there. I always walk away hungry after that movie.
Yeah.
Like, and that's I don't know why, but I like when that movie ends, I'm like, well, fuck. And then I just put on Corpse Bride. So it's always like a double feature.
Yeah. All right.
Corpse Bride, by the way, much better story, much better character building, much better everything overall. And yet, not as good as Nightmare Before Christmas.
All right.
Go figure.
So, next week,
right.
For this week coming up.
Next week,
mm-hmm.
Fred Claus and The Night Before. We're going to have to rent both of them. We'll probably go through Amazon Prime, but it's also on YouTube. The Night Before is a Seth Rogen pick. I've seen it before. It's fantastic. And Fred Claus I have not seen, so I'm looking forward to that one. That's from Vince Vaughn. I think it's from like 2006 or something like that.
Shit. I think I might have actually seen that. I don't remember anything about it, but I think I might have actually seen Fred Claus. All right. Sounds like a plan. Cool.
I don't actually remember. The Night Before is from 2015. And
if you guys...
Fred Claus is from 2007, so I was a year off.
Nice. If you guys tuned in, you watched the films, let us know what you thought of them. Your ratings, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully you guys tune in for the next one. Again, that is Fred Claus and The Night Before. So give us a quick Google search. Check them out, and we will return next week with our consensus on the two. So moving forward, we have what to look for. We have a game coming out over the next week. For the rest of the year, we are pretty much tuckered out on games. So we're getting ready to move into the next year, another fantastic looking year for video games. We have Firewatch coming to the Switch December 17th.
Fuck Firewatch.
Which will be Monday. Now, one thing is, this game ran like shit when it launched on the PS4, and they fixed it. Will it run like shit when it launches on the Switch?
How does a game that mechanically lacking, how does a walking simulator like Firewatch run like shit?
I mean, it's a pretty game, although it's also cartoony, so that should also alleviate here and there. But I don't know. It comes down to the developer a lot of the time and how they optimize the game. I mean, look at Battlefield 1. That game featured huge maps, 64-player matches, blah, 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 and managed to, for the most part, hold 60 frames on PS4. Like, come on. That's some fantastic fucking developer work to optimize a game for consoles that are at that time are technically older than what is like current gen stuff, because we're getting to that point at the end of the year where these consoles are getting quite difficult to develop and still kind of revolutionize what looks good in gaming while sticking to this hardware. So I think they did a fantastic job with the game, but a lot of it comes down to the developer, what they do to ease the load on the system and stuff like that. And there are techniques upon techniques upon techniques to make that load easier. Like if you look at Red Dead, it doesn't.
Is it bad?
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, is it bad if I want the developer that made Firewatch to fail because of what they did to PewDiePie?
No, that's opinion. So.
Yeah. And if you haven't played it before, it's not a monster. It's a retarded guy who killed somebody because he didn't understand and he was retarded.
Whoa.
He falls into a pit and dies, and then the guy ends up brokenhearted because the chick leaves without him. So don't buy the fucking game.
I hated the ending of that game. I'm not gonna lie. Like there's so much build up with the relationship between the main character and the female that you talk to, and it was really good. The dialogue and the writing there was good. But that was like the only good part of the game, yeah. And then that comes to an abrupt stop, and you receive no satisfaction for that thing. Like the whole.
They don't even explain like why she said, "Yeah, I'll wait for you. I want to see you," and then like she's gone. She just bails on him. The
forest is on fire, first of all. So I mean, hey, love is nice and all, but self-preservation usually does.
Yeah, but the area that she was at wasn't in danger.
And she was cucking you. The whole time it was you're being catfished.
Didn't they try and it was like supposed to be a metaphysical or a philosophical whatever?
Yeah.
And then the guy who wrote it was like she was afraid that being face to face with him wouldn't match up with talking to him on the radio. And I'm like, said no one ever.
Yeah, a lot of people were like going into the realms of like this was like a way of him coping with like his wife and everything that was going on. He created this persona and shit, and then they came out and they're like, oh no, she just left. She existed. I always found that funny. It's like sometimes when the author says the curtain's blue, the curtain's blue. All right, let's move forward. We have a few news articles.
I think it would have made a better game if it was actually a monster, and then the FBI actually had a station out there to track it, and then he had to run from the no, fuck that. It's a retarded guy.
They didn't
know any better.
They had a very interesting game that was built. It was an indie game that was made that was like kind of inspired by Firewatch, at least the idea, where you have like a walkie-talkie, you're walking around a national park and shit. And it was a horror game, and there was a creature out in the forest, and you're talking to someone else at another stand, and then they get killed, and you like hear them die, and then you hear the thing.
Is that the one with the lights?
You
spend the game. You're like in the tower.
Yeah,
and
the whole time.
Turn on lights and shit like that.
I don't remember if you're turning on lights, but
yeah, I saw Markiplier play it.
Okay, yeah, that's that game. I thought that game was well done. Yeah. It was very short because it was an indie game.
Yeah. And I don't even remember if you actually ever see.
No, you don't.
Do you ever actually ever see the monster? It's just you die or something.
Yeah, you just like die. You never see it, but I think that kind of adds to the allure. And I also thought allure or whatever. I thought the noises, right K Kona, the allure right there, K Kona.
Let's go across the screen and face me a script scamage.
I thought like the sounds for the monster were particularly spookifying. All right, so let's go ahead and move forward. We got a few articles to talk about.
Basically, a deconstruction of Five Nights at Freddy's.
We have first DICE has pulled a little bit of an oopsie.
For the 100 millionth time.
And has angered their current fan base for the 100 millionth time. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that real quick. We had... So there's been, if you do not know, Battlefield 5 did launch. It came out because it's like literally a puddle, or a drop in a puddle. Because no one there's people playing it and people liking it, but like I haven't heard any talk about this game whatsoever. Like no one gives a fat fuck about it. So recently they introduced a patch into the multiplayer that changed the values of time to kill, also referred as TTK. And it was in an effort to make the game more have a better appeal for newer players, right? And in every instance that has happened, we have never had a positive feedback in that regard. Even looking at bigger games, Fortnite, they did stuff like that where they had elements in the game and they were introducing new. I've heard a lot of people complain because building is the core. Like the idea is you build, where even aiming is not that important, because if you can build better than the other person, you have an advantage. Then they start implementing things that can remove builds faster, like the absolute clusterfuck of explosives they've added to the game, and people complain because what you're doing when you're doing that, when you're making the game more appealing to new players, you're closing the skill gap, and the people that have spent hundreds of hours playing your game now feel like the time they invested to get better was not well spent, because now that they've made the game easier for everybody, you piss off the people that have actually taken the time to invest in your game. Blah blah blah. It's basically along the lines of, I'm trying to think of a good metaphor, but I never do a good job at this. You're like building stairs or some shit, and you get to the 8th rung, and you're almost at the 2nd floor. And as you take one more step, the dude that you're working with decides to cut 2 rungs from you, and so now the gap is larger, or whatever. That was an awful metaphor. I'm just gonna stop making metaphors in general. Actually, can Kyle? Can you cut that? Future Kyle, can you cut that? Excuse me. So we've seen this done by multiple developers in fighting games, in shooters, in strategy games, where they decide to make it more appealing to new players, in turn pissing off the more dedicated fan base. We're seeing it happen yet again. This time it's coming from DICE. So again, real quick, so DICE implemented a patch. It reduced time to kill, so it makes it easier to kill people. You don't have to land as many shots. And people in the core Battlefield community obviously had issues with that change. In return to this, though, DICE did create a core playlist for some of the modes, and so basically the patch changes did not affect that. So now you have a playlist that has the old changes that still have the longer TTK, but there's also another playlist, and we talked about this last week with Sam, and his question regarding to Shawn. You said multiple playlists, having ways for people that do want to keep that skill gap wide, they can exist within their own niche of the community, while the people that want to have more of a casual experience can exist with their own niche of the community. So that was a good step on DICE's part, I would agree. But people still are not happy, especially after the absolute clusterfuck of the upcoming 2 Battlefield 5's launch, with them literally calling their fans stupid and things along those lines, and just pissing off a bunch of people. People still decided to buy the game for whatever reason, and now what am I trying to say? Well, continue with the fucking what's going on here. So people weren't mad. They went to Reddit to complain, because that's what you do on Reddit. And because the problem with the change is it only applies to the Conquest mode. They basically added a core version of every playlist, not just Conquest, and they're actively implementing them into the game as we speak. Another thing with this whole experience is that the time to kill has been this way for almost a month at this point. It's been a while, and people have been complaining about it since beta. So they've taken a while to address the feedback. And it's understandable if it's like map changes or something, but when you're literally just altering values on how much health someone has, that's something that can be fixed in sometimes even hot fixes. You don't even have to fucking patch the game for some of those. Now on games like this, where it's more of a widespread change, yeah, it'd be a patch. But this is something you sit down one of your fucking why does the word that come to mind be attorney? What's an intern? So you could sit down a fucking intern, have him open up the code, and you change one value, and the health is lower across the board. Now, obviously, it's not that simple, but it's within the realms of being that easy. It does not take that long. Basically, I have a quote here. I'd like to apologize for the silence over the past couple days on the time to kill topic. We've seen it being a big talking point, causing a divide in the community, which is never our intention. We've been listening closely to what you have been saying, and that was the community manager, Dan Miter, whatever. So That's basically what's going on. They're still working on balancing the game out, but we've been seeing this happening with Bethesda. We've been seeing this happen with Blizzard and BFA. We've been seeing now this happen with DICE, where we see that these developers are kind of falling out of touch with their community, almost in the regards of like, hey, and it usually happens. You never see this happen with a single player game. These are usually with games that are experiences that are supposed to last, things that need balancing, stuff along those lines. You have you need to listen to the people playing your game, especially the people that have spent a lot of time to get good at your game, because a lot of times in that process, you are learning the ins and outs of the engine at the same time, or the system at the same time, not necessarily the engine. So those people are more knowledgeable about your game, so they have a better idea of what's good for your game, usually. So it's always good to listen to the people that are playing your game, because if you keep them happy, they'll keep playing your game. It's almost as if it's simple or something, right? As if it's that easy for developers just to listen to their community, right? So I don't know why we see this, but we saw, again, if you look at Blizzard and World of Warcraft and Battle for Azeroth, you have them pulling a straight up, they do a beta, Shawn, right? Do a beta, have people test the game, everyone's playing it, they're exploring new things, and you have people leaving notes like feedback, like, oh, hey, I feel like this is taking too long to get, or something's going on here. And then you have Blizzard come out, release BFA, and delete most of the feedback received from the beta testers. How the fuck? How do you think? What's the point of the beta besides building hype for the game at that point? You're supposed to be testing your game to make sure that it's balanced, and then you go ahead and pull this and delete the forums, remove information sent in and not applying it to the game and stuff along those lines. It's just absurd with it. And that's one of the reasons that I played BFA, but I didn't stick with BFA. Also, I don't think BFA is like a really good expansion. Like, I don't know. I'm not a fan of the Azerite system and shit like that. And that's why I've come back to Final Fantasy XIV. And you're seeing more and more people leave WoW because, again, they're feeling the same thing. But they don't feel like Blizzard is connected with their fans. Look at what they did with Diablo and Immortal and stuff like that, where you have a huge event.
I don't think that's the same thing. I think that was a dumb mistake. I don't think that's the same kind of thing.
But they fully expected
was a dumb mistake.
But they straight up came out and said, we did not expect like this negative of a feedback from this announcement. Like that, at that point, if you go to a conference where you have your hardcore fans and have a tease up and announce only announcing a mobile game for people that are predominantly PC players and not expect some form of negative feedback, then you are not in tune with your community.
Yeah, well, there's a difference between some form of negative feedback and people going into man-baby rampage mode.
Well, that's its own thing.
I would not have expected that kind of retarded vitriol coming at me, and they're completely within their right to release the announcement. Then it was the best thing they had to put in the keynote. They haven't done much recently because all their shit was on Battle for Azeroth. So for them to I don't think that they did anything wrong. I think the way they worded things, well, let me rephrase. I don't think them having it at the show, and I don't think them announcing it at the show or announcing it when they did was wrong. I think not prefacing ahead of time more clearly would have helped. I think they should have done that. I think they should have been a little bit more aware of the hunger for the fucking title, so they could have reacted a little bit more respectfully, or a little like without the, well, y'all have phones, come on, like that kind of shit. That was wrong. But releasing it at the conference as part of the cornerstone thing, no, I don't think that was wrong, because they didn't have much going on besides Battle for Azeroth. So I don't think any of that was wrong. And I don't think that's the same level of fuck up as them pulling a Bungie Activision or a fucking DICE EA move and wiping information and trying to hide shit which everyone is going to know is there. Like none of that makes any sense.
The
I think that's
idea,
entirely fuck up.
I think but what I'm trying to say is the idea is that we've had multiple instances of other companies doing this properly. And we all know that no art is created in a vacuum, right? And I'm referring to video games as art. I would agree with that statement. But the idea is to, even if you don't want to look at your fans and listen to what they're trying to say, at least look at what's going on in the environment that you're stationed in, right? You have Fallout, release Fallout Shelter, a mobile game. They do it right after they talk about Fallout 4. Even if you have nothing going on, Bethesda, they have all this talk about Rage 2, a game no one gives a fuck about, or maybe some people give a fuck about, blah, blah, blah. And all they do is they literally show a CG cinematic that has a title card for Elder Scrolls 6 or whatever, and everyone loses their fucking marbles. And all it was something that someone could have edited together and CG'd together in like a week or two or whatever, or however long it takes to do that. That's all they had to do. And I agree with what you're saying. They can release whatever the fuck they want. That's fine. It's their company. It's their idea. And they've also come out and said that this release was more of something aimed towards the Chinese market and shit like that. The story's developed as time has passed. But I agree. What I was trying to say here is, to support the fact that I don't think they're in tune with their community, is the idea of how they went about doing it. Like, again, you have a major conference, and again, you can release whatever the fuck you want. People have released mobile games at major conferences before, but the idea is that you've basically taken your fan base, your hardcore fan base, given them something they've not wanted and not given them anything else. And of course, people will be mad. Now, did that give people?
I can make this super clear for everybody. It's not Blizzard anymore. It's Activision.
Oh no, it is. Same thing happens with
Bungie.
Bungie.
It's not Dice anymore. It's EA. It's not Bungie. It's Activision. Like the company, and what's Bethesda? It's barely.
Oh, it's Bethesda.
It's the barest hint of
there's a Bethesda game
anymore.
studio and a Bethesda publisher, so it's the same name. But the game studio makes like Fallout and shit. But the publisher, because they didn't make Doom, it did. But they're under the Bethesda game studio.
Well, no,
publisher.
they bought the id name, and they bought the id properties, but id as it was is dead. It's been gone for a while. Like Bethesda still has the ability to make quality games, but the people they answered to, because they were partnered with somebody, weren't they?
For what?
Like when they did that fucking horrible the game with the girl with the dead eyes and the space. I never played them.
What are you talking about?
The space role playing game.
Space role playing game for what company? Blizzard?
No, Bethesda.
Bethesda. Space role playing game. Girl with dead eyes. You're on a blank here.
Mass Effect.
I just burped into the mic. That's how fucking dead brain I am
Didn't they
right
do
now.
Mass Effect?
No, BioWare did Mass Effect.
BioWare. Sorry, I was thinking BioWare. My bad, guys. BioWare is no more. BioWare is now. I can't remember.
When
who
did
bought
EA
them.
acquire BioWare? Isn't it EA? I'm pretty sure it's EA.
EA. Yeah, it's EA. Like, there's a reason why these companies that were once great, or at least somewhat dependable to come up with good titles, are rotting. And if you notice, they're almost invariably American companies, because the Japanese business market doesn't work that way. And don't get me wrong, the Japanese companies are failing too. Look at what happened to Konami. Look at what's slowly happening to Capcom. Look at what's been rapidly, what is exponentially getting worse happening to fucking Squeenix. Like, those three companies are falling apart too, and fucking up more and more. The more they try and make more money, the more they try and tap the American market the American way, or the more they, like Konami abandoning their titles, Capcom embracing the DLC concept like prostitutes, and then fucking Squeenix is going every wrong direction, trying to emulate American companies that are obviously going the wrong direction. it's not exclusively an American thing, but if you look at the big companies that we trusted before, like BioWare and Bungie and Blizzard, they're not them anymore. They are now EA and Activision or Ubisoft or what have you. They're gone. So for you to expect that same level, that day is done. It's done. They're not coming back from that. I promise you. EA has not once changed how they function as a company since people started realizing that they were garbage and talking shit, or since they were voted the worst. What was it? Worst publisher? I think it was.
Just worst company to work for. They've won that like 6 years in a row or some shit, bro. They constantly win that fucking award.
And Ubisoft is notorious for stealing properties from their employees, for suing them when they leave and try and make a game, for doing all kinds of predatory and unethical agreements. Like, these companies don't give a shit. They're not about video games. It's not like it used to be where it was a company that was about video games that was attempting to be profitable. Now it is a company that is about profit that has decided to make profit off of video games. It's a very different dynamic, and the intention behind it makes a huge amount of difference. So Blizzard's dead. BioWare is dead. Bungie is dead. I don't even know why people are bothering to call them by those names anymore. So all these mistakes that everybody's so shocked by, I'm not, because as soon as I hear EA bought this company, I'm like, well, they're fucking done. And normally when they buy them, they just buy the shell anyway. They don't keep the people. You know, the studios are lucky if a handful come on.
All right.
You know, when they're purchased. So I don't know. I lose hope the moment they get purchased. That's why I was so upset when DICE got fucked by EA. And even then, they still were able to put out some quality shit before they started falling apart.
Yeah. All right. Next article, we have another interesting kind of development with the whole Epic Store situation. Discord's launcher. Well, Discord, if you have it, if you do not, I mean, a lot of console players don't know what it is, just because they don't have a reason to use it. But it is a application you can download either on your phone or online. Blah blah blah. It's a chat service, but online or on your desktop, it also runs as a launcher. They have their own Netflix-like subscription system for games and shit along those lines as well. But they are also stepping up to combat Steam for like the revenue percentages and stuff. So basically, Discord has announced that in 2019, its launcher will offer 90% of the revenue share made off of games to developers. So they will only take 10% of sales, where Epic's was 12 to 18 or 12 to 16, something along that, and Steam's is 30. So we're kind of seeing an interesting thing. What we haven't seen in a very long time in the PC market is competition for Steam. Steam has been the top dog for a very long time, and I think will still be for quite some time. But with things like Discord coming out and Epic Games coming out, these big players stepping up to try and pull more games to their service, you'll see more and more of an interesting development. Now, how does this affect consumers? I don't really see it. The only thing I really see it is now, instead of having one launcher, you might have to have 3 launchers, because as of right now, games you can still straight out buy them. There's a slight fear in my mind that sometime in the future we might see a rise of subscription-based services being exclusive, right? So Discord has their thing, Nitro. Pay $10 a month, you get some benefits for their chat service, but also you get access to a whole library of games. I have a bad feeling that maybe in the future, at least for digital versions, all you do in an exclusive manner is pay for your $10 a month. You have access to every game on the lobby, and when they get new games, you own them. But then at that point, how many services am I going to have to be vying with to get new games as they come out, kind of thing? So like how it is right now with Netflix. If you're in the realms of anime, I guess, if a new show comes out and it's only on Crunchyroll, then yeah, it's on Crunchyroll. Problem is a lot of the times you have 5 or 6 shows that come out that you want to watch, right? So in that regard, the idea is to support the industry. You would want to pay for the services that support those shows or have the licensing rights to those shows or the streaming rights to those shows. Now, I knocked something on the floor. Is it possible, so along the lines, could we see something like this proper for video games? I doubt it happening anytime soon, but with the way that games are going and digital versions of games becoming more and more and more prevalent, as Shawn was saying earlier, even to the point where some games aren't even getting physical releases at all, is it possible to see something along the lines of a exclusive only, pay $10 service and you get access to all these games kind of thing, but you can't buy games on the store anymore? Is that a possibility? Again, I don't see it anytime soon, but it's always like one of those like things that sit in the back of my mind that kind of spooks me when I do think about it. But back to what's actually going on. So Discord's offering them only taking a 10% cut on sales when they sell games on their store. And this is coming from them, quote, saying, "We noticed a change happening in the gaming industry. We talked to a lot of developers, and many of them feel that current stores are not earning their 30% of the usual 70 to 30 revenue share." The company said on its blog. Because of this, we now see developers creating their own stores and launchers to distribute their games instead of focusing on what's really important, making great games and cultivating amazing communities. So we asked ourselves a few questions. Why does it cost 30% to distribute games? Is this the only reason developers are building their own stores and launchers? Turns out it does not cost 30%. Oh, who would have thought? After doing some research, we discovered that we can build amazing developer tools, run them, and give devs the majority of the revenue share. So, as we said earlier, Steam does take 30%. Epic was boasting the 12 to 18%, depending on the company distributing the game. And now we have Discord popping up saying that, hey, we're only going to take 10%. So, we have these people vying to get their games on their store. One person can say, how can Discord do this? Like, how can they do this and still make profit while dealing with licensing and all this other shit, getting the games on their stores as well? They have their own service. So Epic Games does not have something like this. Humble's store has something like this, or PlayStation has something like this for its older titles. But they have a service. You pay $10 a month, you get access to a library of games. And on top of that, they have a store as well. So they have a way to still maintain a profit, as well as giving devs a huge percentage of their money to entice people to hop on over and pull potential games from other stores possibly as exclusive features. So it's very interesting seeing this play out. What do you think about this, Shawn?
I think Steam was nice for a while because it was a one-stop shop for almost everything. And for what you couldn't find there, you could find on GOG or, other sites and shit. I think the idea of a launcher is ridiculous in the first place, but I think the more competition, the better. There's been a while that people have been complaining about certain elements of Steam. So, this gives them a little bit more options. But again, it's the same thing that happened with the streaming services, where you're going to be forced into making choices and what direction you want to go with it. And God forbid they force a subscription type thing. I don't know. I mean, I'm not really neck deep in the PC community, but I do worry about the direction some trends take. But if anything, I mean, Valve isn't stupid. I mean, even though they fucked us on Half-Life, so you can go rot in a cold death hell. I don't think they're stupid. And if it came to the point, because Valve's got the heads, right? They've got the heads. They don't really have to change because they're already in everyone's living room or den or office or whatever. But that can change a lot easier than, say, the PlayStation Xbox dichotomy, where there were PlayStations in every room and Xboxes weren't. So developers were going to go with Sony 9 times out of 10 even if they were developing for both platforms, they would make sure it was optimized for Sony. Just like with PS3 and Xbox 360, they would develop on Xbox 360 and optimize it for Xbox. And then if they wanted to, they would do a shitty conversion for the PS3, or an average conversion. It was just a more of a pain in the ass, and the exposure wasn't there. So it'll be a slow downfall, but I can't see Valve holding on to their 30% for a long time, because eventually more and more people are going to pull. I mean, it's not like you have to buy the fucking launcher, number one. It's just a download.
Yeah.
So you're going to see people gradually transition, and I don't think it'll take that long, but you might see it gradually change over 6 months to a year, where people are like, start looking into these other platforms. But more to the point, you're going to see publishers going, we can keep more of the money. Fuck yeah. Okay. We're going here. And they'll risk that lack of exposure, because and also it doesn't stop them from advertising. And if I was a publisher, I would go to whichever one is going to allow me to make more money. The exposure I would put on my shoulders. If it's just this is how I'm getting, this product from point A to point B, and UPS is cheaper than the German one with the yellow van that I can never remember, that is a much better shipping company.
Mm-hmm.
DLP or whatever it is, DL or some shit. I don't fucking know. But if UPS is better than FedEx, then I'm going with UPS. If it's costing me less to ship, if I would still have my own, I'd also consider just doing my own fucking store, which a lot of companies have been doing since they got sick of getting ripped off by Valve. But if you wanted to use this mass store thing, this digital store thing, like what Valve did, I would go with the one that charges me less. I would drop Valve like a bag habit. So I would see Valve changing, and the only reason I would see people still putting their stuff on Valve Store is for the greater exposure, and that's only a matter of time, because it's just a piece of software.
Yeah.
And with the complaints people have had about how people have used social engineering to hack the reviews and stuff, and whatnot, and the digital engineering, where they would go in and fuck the reviews up and whatnot, with people, Valve's reputation is slowly getting tarnished. Also, no Half-Life 3. I really don't see Valve holding on to this refusal to buck. I think they would change.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, it's just who makes it more enticing to sell games on their platform. Because it's just a digital fucking store. Like if I was going to buy a computer game in the first place, more than likely I would just go to the company's website and buy it there. I don't fuck with that other stuff anyway. The only thing I find convenient about the launcher is that it keeps track of your games, and it's like a little library thing, and you can download them again anytime you want to, kind of shit.
Well, the idea with Steam is that you have a service where you don't have to distribute the files, because you need the servers to hold the files, the servers to manage the distribution and sending the packets, all that shit like that. So the reason people go to Steam, they have the infrastructure. They pay a fee. Well, now this is changing with Discord and Epic Games. So they pay a fee to host you. So they're basically hosting your files for you. And then when someone ever buys it, they send it to you for free. You don't have to deal with any of that issue. You don't have to deal with the infrastructure. You don't have to deal with servers getting overloaded on day one and things of that sort. That's why companies don't like to build their own things. Like even Bethesda.
I think the competition will be helpful then. Ultimately, they're basically not a digital store. They're a digital distributor.
Yeah, I mean, you're still buying games, and they keep track of your games just for the idea that everything's in one place, all that idea. But the main goal of Steam is to take the files and move them to the client that purchased them. So you don't have to build the servers, the infrastructure, the data banks to move all that information around when you launch your game. That's one less worry for a smaller developer. And even with AAA developers, they fuck it up all the time too. Look at Bethesda's launch of 76. Their launcher absolutely got steamrolled and was a piece of garbage the first day it launched. So it's not. So it's just ease of ease of mind, like the idea that I could get my files to whoever wants to get them. I'll just pay the 30% fee. Fuck it. I know that this won't go bad.
Then it comes down to do I want to save money on the outset and only have to pay 10% to get this done, or do I want the exposure? And with something digital like this, it's a lot easier than buying a piece of equipment. So I think that Epic, because of its reputation with Fortnite, not because of all the other good games they did that none of you fucking idiots have played, and Discord have a fighting chance for real.
Yeah. All right.
And I like the fact that the people who make the software are going to be able to keep more of their money. That's kind of a nice thing too.
Oh, definitely. And I think that alone will also be a pull for people buying their games too. Not only the people hosting their games there, but if you know that you're doing more to support the person that made the game that you like, why would you buy your shit on Steam if you're the person if you can go to the Discord store and give them 20% more money for what they're doing, so you can see more from that service. If any, and
I just had a thought though.
It's a stupid thought. What the point I'm trying to prove across, but usually the idea that PC gamers are usually more in tune with gaming because they take the effort to build and do all this extra shit. So the idea that will be more enticing to someone that did take the time to build a PC. Now, it's a generalization in general. But I think there's also another point that someone might be thinking when they go where to host their files, that kind of idea as well. What was your thought?
I think that what we're going to see them start diversifying their platforms. So they're going to start specializing. Kind of like you have a horror streaming service, an anime streaming service, a TV streaming service, a film streaming service. Originally, when they started off, they were focusing, and then Crunchyroll picked up Korean drama. Netflix started making TV shows. Hulu started hosting movies. Everyone started doing original content. Like, you're going to start seeing some specializing happen, and I think right after that, an expanding of what the platforms are actually capable of doing, and that way, the consumers are going to have a harder choice on their hands because they're going to have to start making decisions on what they want and who they're going to go with. And I think that's when you're going to see that subscription shit come in. Because if they start offering something more than just a place to get your game, I don't know what they would offer, but cloud stuff or something. I don't know. But if they started doing something like that, I think they're going to start becoming different beasts, but I don't know if it'll lean more toward. I think in this case, leaning more towards specializing in certain areas would work more to their advantage than homogenizing into a service that does the same thing as all the other services, because they're starting off that way. So I think it would go in a reverse direction just to try and pull in audience people who are too lazy to download something like another launch.
All right.
Because you yourself, you hate having multiple launchers on your desktop. There's no real massive inconvenience to it. You just don't like doing it. You'd rather just have one that you have to fucking deal with because it's annoying.
Just like
you're not going to be the only one that feels that way.
Yeah. Also, I'm not a fan of. I know a lot of people are against the DRM stuff because you don't technically own the game. You just bought for a technical lifetime lease as long as your account is maintained and the servers don't go down, whatever.
I've never liked that.
My problem with that is the idea that you can back up your game onto something else in case something does happen, but then at that point you don't have, unless you're going through a third party company, you don't have cloud backup. I think Steam does a lot to offer. Even though there technically is, it depends on the service. Like GOG, they don't have any DRM. You literally get the folder that has the games in it and shit. And for some people, that's good. But I don't like, one, having to manage all that bullshit. Then, although they have their own launcher, a lot of the times you can't just download the file. I don't like having the files and having to get them that way. Rather, again, one place where everything is. That's the nice part about Steam. And that was the idea when Steam was created. And now it's bloated into this monstrosity that it is now. And also the idea that if something does happen to your computer and you did not happen to back up the 230 old games that you have, those things are fucking lost forever because your hard drive died or whatever. But if you have Steam and you have old games or whatever you have, they usually don't have a lot. On Steam, it's connected to the cloud, your account. You just log back in on your new computer, authorize the computer, boom, you can download it, you have your game, and even most of the time, they're your saves as well. So that's the one thing. I think there's pros and cons to it. But let's move forward. We've been on this for quite some time. But hey, that will be our main topic. Hope you guys liked it. Next, we have Microsoft has been kind of hinting at Halo Infinite, which is the next Halo game. It is, in fact, next Halo game. If you've seen anything about it, it was the kind of teaser that showed off their new engine that they've made for this game. And another cool thing is this game is coming to PC as well, so I'll be able to play Halo again. That's pretty interesting. They recently had the narrative experience director show up on a stream, and they talked about like the trailer, and they had this deep talk. It was like fucking like an hour long, and they talked about the game. But one of the cool things they talked about was the fact that they are boasting the fact that this is the coolest Master Chief design we've seen yet, across all of them. And they're also saying along the line that the design took inspiration from his look in Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo 4, and Halo 5, but he'll look different, which doesn't make any sense because it's all the Halos, but whatever. He'll look different.
Yeah, his look barely changed. I mean,
I'd say the
general morality's always stayed pretty much the same.
I'd say from like, if you look at like the Mark 1, the Mark 2, and then to like what he looked like in 5, I think it was just like a constant, like because they could, it got more like technologically advanced. Like in 1, it literally looked like a leather suit and pieces of armor strapped to it. But as it and a cool helmet, but as it progressed, now it's like full suits and like jetpack boosters on the back and like almost like Iron Man-esque armor that kind of shifts when it comes on and off and stuff like that. And they changed the look. I'd like to see what he looks like now. The most exciting part about this game is the fact that I'll actually be able to play it without having to buy an Xbox, because fuck buying an Xbox. And that excites me because I'm a huge fan of Halo.
I think they just added detail from what the pictures I'm looking at here. The old one, he was wearing armor pieces over an undersuit.
Yeah.
Because graphically they couldn't do more than that. But it was actually all one unit, just like. And then the next one, he had more details to it, but and the knee pads weren't separate. Or no, it wasn't as jointed. Like the old one had squarer pieces and shit, but the basics of the suit still stays the same.
Oh yeah, no.
I mean, you got the backpack portion in Halo 3, and then they just detailed it more for Halo 4. Like he kind of looks like a fucking robot in Halo 4. Yeah. I didn't see Halo 5. Oh, here we go. 2015. Let me look at that one. That's actually the 2015 one kind of went backwards a little bit in terms of the tone. But yeah, I don't think that, I mean, it's not so much of a massive change that I ever immediately noticed. I just thought they just added details.
Yeah. I do like I think my favorite suit would probably be 4 or 5, just because they look the coolest. I like 3 a lot too, only for nostalgic effect. But I never thought, besides the helmet, I thought the original armors just looked again, like with the originals looking like practical jumpsuits with plastic pieces attached to them. But they also talked a bit about they showed some early work in progress versions of the game. Showed a little bit more of the engine off and stuff like that, and they talked about like playtesting opportunity and stuff like that. They also kind of put a heavy emphasis on the idea that there'll be more of a focus on Master Chief this time around, which is one of the reasons everyone hated fucking Halo 5 was because they stayed away from him for the most part. The idea that Master Chief is coming back as the main kind of guy that you focus on instead of John Locke or whoever the other fucking people we're talking about will be cool. Because I like Master Chief's my favorite part of Halo, besides the gameplay, and being able to see more of him is nice. So that's about it. I'm excited for this game. I'm wondering how they're going to take the story ahead. I think it'd be really cool to kind of take the squad elements they had in 5, But now we're on Chief's side, although I know you played as Chief a bit in 5, and we're with his team. I forget what they're called. Spartan team. Is it Team Blue or some shit like that? I don't know. Let's find out. Master Chief's team. It is Blue Team. Fuck yeah. It's rusty, but there's still some lore in that head somewhere. So I'd like to see more of him and his team, and just playing Halo again. That kind of excites me. I just want to see more of the game, because we really haven't seen much at all. So, final thing, we have an interesting thing happened. Apparently, Street Fighter V has introduced ads into its game. And that may sound weird to you, but it is exactly how it sounds. They're trying something new with their game, and they're introducing advertisements for in-game things in-game. So say if you're playing on a stage, there'll be areas on the stage that will have areas set up where they can advertise the tournament coming up, in-game packages, DLC, sales on costumes, stuff of that sort. Also, characters are getting a change to their style where you can implement an ad style option that will display sponsored content on the clothing of the character in clear sight. So like with Ryu, his gloves will have like the Pro League emblem on them and stuff like that. The good thing about this is they are entirely optional. You don't have to look at them. They're not being thrown in your face. They're not pop-ups or anything. They just exist in the background. And if you have them on, you'll be able to generate extra of the fight money, the in-game money they use for like spending on stages, costumes, all that other shit. But apparently there's also a upper limit to the money that you can receive. So it will cap. So like for this week, you can only receive 600 additional points. So you can turn on the ads, grind them out, turn them back off, or whatever suits your fancy. It's an interesting business method here. And people love, well, obviously, first of all, Street Fighter V has been constantly taking shits on the community that has come to support Street Fighter as a whole, from its launch to its balancing. And then now we're throwing ads into the game, a game that you not only paid the $60 for initially, but have supported with to maintain the character roster like an additional $150 or something along those lines. And obviously, as you could have guessed, the Street Fighter subreddit is fucking shitting all over this new idea. And like to the point where people were like talking about like it like making fake images of things that can be like Mountain Dew skins or like McDonald's headgears and shit like that. And other people are...
You know what the shitty part about that whole situation is that game companies have been doing this for years and just not announcing it, and nobody thought anything of it. Like, you'd have characters with Pepsi shirts or whatever, and you might get a blurb about it here or there, somebody annoyed, or they kind of find it amusing that there was an ad for something in their game on a character's shirt or something. Like, a lot of times it was clothing brands.
Well, the idea with this...
When you were playing Final Fantasy, they used Coleman equipment.
Yeah, the idea...
You saw shit like that in games before. It's just never been this... first of all, they never announced it at a time in this fashion. And it's never been as blatant as this. Well, yeah, it has, but it's this sounds like there's just going to be more of it. And it's going to be more in your face. But overall, they've been doing it for years. If they hadn't announced it, and if it had just been incorporated, and you could get like free costumes, but they would have like Pepsi or something on them, I don't think you would have seen the exact same response. It would have been ridiculed. But
the idea is there's no product placement yet. People are suggesting that their product placement come in the future. The idea right now, all of the advertisements are for like in-game DLC and sales. So say if a costume goes on sale, like, oh, get this skirt for Ryu, and it's like 30% off or whatever, you'll see it on a billboard in the background. Or like, oh, hey, the tournament's on this Saturday or something like that. You'll see a billboard for it in the background. Good thing is these ads, again, are entirely optional. but people are speculating that it could go into the realms of McDonald's signing a contract where every Ryu skin has a McDonald's M on his belt or some bullshit like that in the future. And also people are speculating the idea that this might be like a soft launch for a free-to-play version of the game where you can play it for free, but there's like ads implemented or something like that. I think it just sounds dumb to me if it goes into like a free to play in that realm and stuff like that. I don't really have too much of it's just weird when it's on the characters' outfits and stuff. If it's something that's in the background and it's like, oh, this is on sale, it's more distracting than anything else. And it just makes it feel like the game is even less serious than it already is because you have all these dumb, like, world-breaking things in the fighting game on top of the fact that they have done everything they can to sabotage themselves in the development process of Street Fighter V. So it's just interesting to see yet another step into the realms of greed, to see just kind of how far Capcom can take this. First, you get 8 characters, and we're going to release another 35 that you have to pay for, and then now we have straight ads in it. Like when I first read this, I dead ass thought that they were pop-ups. Like while you were loading into a fight, a thing would pop up and it'd be an advertisement, almost like sexy single wives in your area or some shit like that. I guess they wouldn't be single if they were wives. Whatever. I was thinking something along those lines, just because of Capcom's fucking track record. And it could even go into those realms. That's what people are speculating. But again, the internet has taken the shit to Capcom. Fuck you. You're ruining our game, blah, blah, blah. We'll see how Capcom responds to this, if they'll continue with their process or take the negative feedback and go hide back in their caves and make new characters that everyone has to pay for.
I'm just going to go back and play Street Fighter 4.
Yeah, play the older ones. So,
well, Street Fighter 4 is still a technical game. You can play it casual with your friends, but it's made to be a technical fighter. They took it in that direction when they made Street Fighter 4. And then when they made Street Fighter 5, they casualed it and fucked the whole game up. So everyone that went out and bought it on the first day and plays it because it is what it's become now is shunted more into Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 3, Street Fighter EX plus Alpha, Street Fighter Alpha, that stuff, which is where I originally played the games. But every time they released an iteration, it got a little bit more complex. It got more technique to it. You had to learn more, get some practice in there, learn how to connect moves together and create your own combos and strategies. And they erased like fucking 40% of that when they released Street Fighter 5.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, interesting week indeed. That'll pretty much wraps it up. Do you have anything else to add, Shawn? Anything you heard of, or?
I do not.
Yeah, it's been kind of chill.
Oh, I saw the. Did you see the trailer for Code Vein?
I've watched some of the other trailers for like Code Vein, the prior ones, unless they release a new one.
The ones where they showed the classes that you can play.
Oh fuck, I have not. That excites me. Just that sentence has made me. Let me check. Maybe one third chub. 1/3 chub, maybe.
Am I getting my? No, I think I'm right. Yeah, Code Vein. That was the vampire one.
Yeah, the Dark Souls clone. So
yeah, there's like one character has it's like fucking you know what it is? It's Tokyo Ghoul, the Dark Souls version.
Yeah,
like they have these. Unless I'm getting the game confused, I don't.
No, that's Code Vein. They have like the masks that kind of like grow over their face. Yeah.
One character has a tentacle that comes out of their back and it whips at things, and then another character has gauntlets that form, and they do these like slow, heavy punches, and then another character has a different kind of appendage that grows out of them. I don't remember what it was. It was something weird. Like all of them are weird. None of them look like conventional weapons or conventional fighting. Like it's all very bizarre. There's no like, hey, this is my sword attack or my axe attack or my gun attack. It's like a tail that comes out of the middle of your spine and gauntlets that grow out of your arms and shit. It's kind of interesting, but also I'm not fond of how the abilities look. They just look kind of goofy to me. I still want it, but
Yeah,
I remember the
feel you.
gauntlet and I remember the whip, and then somebody else I think has something that comes out of their head or the center of their chest or something like that.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I'm excited for that game. Now I want to check that out. But
I don't even like Dark Souls, and I'm buying it.
All right. That pretty much is episode 78. Holy shit, boys. Thank you all for stopping by. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Starting with Shawn. You know what time
As
it is.
always, hugs and kisses, know your pink cards.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm dying over here.
He's not. I'm not sorry, people.
Hey, fuck you. How about that? Fuck you. All right.
You like them apples? You like them?
Yeah, bitch. All right.
What's your thought?
Oh, yeah. Before we go, I shall leave you all with a thought, as always. The average talker sprays around 300 microscopic saliva droplets per minute, about 2.5 droplets per word.